Welcome everybody to the Social Dig, the greatest underrated show on the World Wide Web. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. And as always, we're going to be digging into the topics that keep you talking and the talk that keeps you thinking. So come on in, kick your feet up, get an ice cold beverage, get ready to join the conversation right here on the Late Night Calling Show. We decided to do one because why not? We have the ability to make that happen. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that we do that here tonight as we go ahead and welcome all of you guys in here because this show is for you. You guys are the reason why we do this show, and we will continue to do this based on what it is that you want to talk about. That's what we'll do tonight. See what it is that you guys want to get into. Let me go ahead and make sure that I post the link to join the show here tonight. You can join. There's a few ways you can join, a couple ways you can join the show. You can click the link that we just posted right here in the chat. Also, you can call the phone number. What is the phone number, you ask? Well, if we can get to it here, the phone number is 856-843-3444. That's 856-THE-DIGG. If you're calling from outside the United States, that's going to be 001-856-843-3444. That's 001-856-THE-DIGG. Pretty simple. Put it in your phone. Save it. Save it for later. Should be right there under Mom, Dad, Social Dig, right there, right in your contact list. So that way you can call anytime. The phone line is 24 hours a day. Means you can call anytime. Just leave a message. The voicemail line is always open. 3-minute limit. Just go ahead and drop some information. Whatever it is you want to say, it's all good. It's all good as we get ready to get into the show here tonight. Let me go ahead and welcome anyone that has come on in to join us to talk late. We got Lavera Lucchini out there. Lavera Lucchini is in the building. Appreciate you coming on in, Lavera. Also, we got Joe Monk in the building. Joe Monk, thanks for coming on in. We got Tamothman out in the building as well. Thanks for coming on in, Tamothman. We got Mary Kay. Mary Kay is in the building. Thanks for coming on in. Let's see, who else do we have? Jay Trueseeker. Thank you for coming on in. We appreciate you showing on up here tonight. Also, we have Zenzabills in the building. Thanks for coming on in and joining us to have a conversation, right? That's what we do here. Who else do we have here? We have some lurkers out there as well. If you're lurking, join the conversation. Don't be afraid. Hop on in the chat. These guys are real cool individuals out here, very smart as well. And I think you'll have a great time. As we go ahead and get ready to jump on into the show, just want to also let you know that we do have memberships available. Become a social soldier today. You can do that by clicking the description. There is a link there. It helps the show out, allows us to put on these awesome shows as much as we do, digging into getting to those answers. Also, we want to say what's up to those members. So far, we have T-Bone, the Beekeeper, D. Nunley, Maggie M10, Flat 6, Miss Catherine Jones, Lee Ann Bridges, Polly Rodderman, Lil Cam 51, Frankie B, and Fast Timmy. I thank you guys all for your support. Very much appreciated. Once again, that's the reason why we're able to even do these shows. And this clip is for the upcoming show. I don't know if you've seen this. I just posted it recently. But this is what we'll be talking about. Technically, we're into Thursday. And of course, the call-in line is blowing up here because we're starting the call-in show. Caller, give me 1 second here, caller. Let me make sure I get you all set up, caller. Not ignoring you, caller. I do see you calling from a 205 area code. I'm going to make sure we get you up here. Let me see. I should be able to do this right here. And let's try calling that caller back. How about that? This is now officially the Social Dig, the late night callback show. As we get ready to call whoever just called us right on back here. And in the meantime, everyone else knows how to get up here. Let me go ahead and make sure we attempt to call this number back here. All right. You can give us a call back. I don't see the number in there, which is weird. You just called. but I don't see your number. However, getting back to this here, I'll answer the call when it comes through. The Jordan Peele movie Nope, right? So we had recently Jeremy Corbell, and you gotta love Jeremy Corbell dropping the bombs when needed, right? So, and if you can see, you can see a pattern in all this if you go back and look, which I think is strategically great for the community because for one, when we have articles written like the one recently in the Wall Street Journal here, which pretty much tries to paint the picture as, oh, everything we've been seeing has been government crap. We didn't want to tell you guys. It was a hoax. We were hazing. We were doing all this kind of weird stuff, and we didn't want to tell anybody, but we're going to tell you now, right? So whenever we have something like that, which is hard to, on the face of it, discount or debunk on the face of it. So it's like, okay, they present this. What do you have to debunk this? Well, we have people out there that are kind of picking into the details that will eventually pick this whole thing apart. But for a lot of people who are new to the subject, just coming in, it's a little different for them, right? Because they don't know which way to look, they don't know which way to think. So it's always cool, I'll say, that Corbell and George Knapp always seem to have something big that they're able to release right after one of those incidents. And if you look going back in time, this has happened time after time where someone who doesn't want the secrets out steps in and attempts to do something, and then they get countered by evidence. And this is what I'm liking. So obviously it hasn't been vetted out too far, but I did want to show the thumbnail. In case you're new, you just happened up on this show because it's the only thing live this late right now. Want to let you know, Friday at 5 p.m., we will be doing the definitive UFO news show, and we'll be talking about that subject right there, what you see on the screen. So wanted to make sure you guys all saw that. And also, let me make sure that you guys do have that message in the chat. I'll repost it again. It wouldn't let me do it before the show, but I'm going to post it again. And Joe Monk, I like that freaking movie. And I'll tell you, because we can just briefly say it here right now, is that when I initially went to see this movie, this will kind of set the stage for that. When I initially went to see the movie, we're all going based off the previews, right? So the previews depict your typical extraterrestrial encounter, spaceships, aliens, and a lot of people are going into the theater expecting that this is what they're going to experience. The typical sort of UFOs type of story, right? That we've come to know up to this point. So when the movie didn't go that way, right? For instance, when they show, and this is not a spoiler, hopefully you guys have all seen this movie. If not, you should go watch it. I'm probably going to rewatch it again before we do the show on Friday. And maybe you guys should too. Maybe keep it fresh in your mind, right? As far as how we'll talk about this. But there was a part in the movie where they show like the top of these alien heads, or no, the alien heads starting to peek from around that corner in the barn, right? And for everybody, we're looking at that like, okay, extraterrestrial, typical grays, right? This is what we're seeing. This is what we're feeling and expecting to go into the movie to see. Then it turned out to not be that at all. It turned out to be not that at all. There was not one traditional extraterrestrial appearance in this movie. So a lot of people felt disappointed about that and felt that the movie didn't hit the mark. And I'll admit that I felt the same way too. I walked into the theater. I sat there in the theater as the credits rolled, and I've told this story a million times before, and I'll tell it again on Friday, I'm sure. But I was just sitting in my seat, and I just sat there as the credits rolled, and I'm like, am I disappointed? I didn't know what to think in the moment, right? I didn't know if I should be disappointed. And I kind of looked at it like it didn't hit what I expected initially, but I'll tell you what, I got up out that seat, and by the time I walked from the theater seat to the car, it hit me. It was like, no, actually, that was awesome. The way that this is depicted, it was out the box, and it was so far out of the box that you had to ask yourself, why would a film producer put his budget and put his reputation on the line to put something out that didn't align with what people know as the phenomena? And it made me feel like, okay, he must have had confidence when putting the script together and then also putting it out to the public. There was had to be a level of confidence there that, yeah, they probably are expecting this, but they're going to get this, and it won't initially hit them, but then they'll end up seeing why. And the reason why I even say that, and I made that point because it was so different. And one of the things that hit me as I walked to the car was my own UFO experience, where I experienced 47 objects. And of those 47 objects, they all appeared to be what people would determine as alive in some fashion. Like they had this fluid motion as if they were alive, but they were physical objects, these spheres with these black pipe like objects sticking out the bottom. We'll go more into that during the show tomorrow, but that hit me, and I was like, okay, the lifelike thing is definitely a connection for me. So it gave me confidence into feeling like, well, maybe somebody is talking to Jordan Peele behind the scenes, or maybe Jordan Peele saw the video that was just released, or had word that this type of video was out there, and decided to take his movie that way. I don't know. We'll be talking about that on Friday, though. So make sure, if you are not currently a subscriber, we would love to have you back here to have that conversation. Hit the notification bell. Friday at 5 p.m., we will be talking UFOs. Art imitating life? There's evidence of this happening many, many times before, but I don't want to talk about that tonight because we'll save that for Friday. But I did want to make sure that everyone knows that that's what we're doing. So, with that being said, this is up to you guys. We can actually talk about anything that you want to talk about. I know that Derek Galloway asked a question during the Spaced Out Radio show tonight with Dave Scott. Um, he asked a question about my brother and NASA and how he feels about the phenomena. And I got to tell you, and if my brother is watching, he could be, he might be watching right now or later. But he's not super sold on the phenomena. I think deep down, I think he knows that there is definitely something to this. I think more so than when I originally talked to him about it. I think he's potentially accepted the fact that this stuff is here. It doesn't really want to engage with it much, right? And that's fair because there's a lot of people around the world that are going to have that same initial approach when it comes to finding out what's going on with this UFO phenomena. Because I got to say, on the surface of it, it definitely does seem like something that is far fetched and kind of out there. It definitely does. I listen to when I tell the story, I listen to it and I'm like, yeah, that it sounds, bananas. So on some levels, it definitely does. So I can't be mad that that's how other people would look at it. It's mind blowing, right? And I don't think the realism or reality of this actually hits until we have that moment. Until we have the moment where it's no doubt about it what's going on here, and I think that's when everyone will kind of come to grips. Now, another thing, and I want to make sure that I can do this during this show. Let me see. Okay, this is sent to my I want to try to include this into the show. Um, I've talked to you about my daughter here, right? And the connection that she had. I think Joe Monk is in the background. Oh no, okay, I got him on screen here. Okay. So there was, if you've ever heard the story, there was things that have gone on in this house that are very strange, undescribable. Hearing sounds, footsteps on the roof, things of that nature. Long story short, My daughter at one point was doing these TikTok dances, ended up filming a shadow person or taking an image of a shadow person, which was bananas. She had no clue on even what that was. Her friends took, like a screenshot of her phone and then sent it over to her and said, "Look, someone's in your house." So there's a whole freaky story behind that. But she actually also, to go a little further, was the only one in the family who had also heard these sounds on the roof that I've been hearing for like 3 weeks straight, just walking across the roof, and she had been hearing them too. So inadvertently, she finds herself, experiencing something related to the phenomenon, whether she realizes it or not at the time. But as far as progress goes, I can tell you that, and actually, there is definitely there was a moment where, and I'll play this later in the show. There was a moment where we I get called out the house yesterday, and I want to show this to you. Hold on, let me try. I want to show this as I tell you this story, because I think it goes to show how things can change. And if you heard that, that was her. Let me try to get this up here. Save that. Let me try to email this to myself. So I want to bring it up here on the show. And so anyone, you can join the stage at any time as I kind of try to do this. I don't want to have hella dead air here, but give me just a second as I send this to myself. Okay, video. All right, so I just sent it to myself. And so she captured something on film on her own and comes to tell me about it. Actual size. Okay. And I'll check for it over here. But she comes to tell me that she saw something and she recorded it on her own. Wasn't prompted to do so, but I think what it does show is that it shows an example of someone who, in the beginning, I can tell you for sure, they used to laugh at the word UFO in this household. I'll speak for pretty much everyone here, besides myself. Everyone else here laughed at the idea of there being UFOs in the sky, the possibility the aliens are visiting us, and to see these people these same people go through this shift of consciousness, or I don't know how do you want to paint it, but they actually got to a point to where now they are more open to something like that being the case. So I will see, I'm just downloading these to the computer so I can show them here during this show. Right. All right. So I think I can now add this to the program here. Let me step back. All right. Can I get this full screen? All right. No, let me do this here. All right. So this is what she took. I'm sitting here in the studio at about 5 o'clock yesterday, and I get this call where they're like, "Come, you should come outside right now. You should come outside." And last time someone came and said that to me, there were 47 UFOs in the sky, and I ended up filming that. So this time I didn't even think about it. I grabbed anything that might be worth recording with, and I went right outside, assuming that it would be something along those lines. So this is what they show. This is what I ended up seeing when I go out there, and they're so excited about this. They're like, "Oh my God, you won't believe this! We took a picture of this, and it's crazy. It's amazing. I don't know what that is." As I go ahead and zoom in, I want to make sure you guys can see that. She's like, "I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is." And then I go a little further here, and I actually have the video that I'll play right now. Let me go ahead and stop that. She got that, and then this is the video. And I said I told them I was going to play this. Let me see. Just once. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. Let me see. Okay, that's this one here. All right, let me get this up here. And half of you guys are already looking like, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is. Let me go ahead and play it for you so you can hear her general reaction. Okay, that was taken right in front of the house. I know you guys all know what that is, and I'll let you go ahead and put it in the chat. What do you think that was? Let me go ahead and scroll down here. Become current. Actually, way behind on the chat. Okay, so to the trained eye, everyone here in this UFO community, what do you guys think that was? Okay, MEWC says saw that on Twitter. No idea. Marie K says that was a UFO. And I'll tell you that it wasn't actually a UFO. What it was, exactly, Deb from Sacramento. This is what it was. And I was able to tell her this right off the bat. I was able to let her know, hey, you know, it's awesome that you felt the need to and compelled to videotape this and to show it to me, and you were excited and in awe about what you saw. That was the beautiful part about it, because this is a person that had gone from laughing at UFOs to having an experience here that was weird in the house to hearing she wasn't present for my UFO sighting, but she heard about it. And, you know, she kind of made little jokes about UFOs over time, but then more and more and more as time has gone on, she has come to the realization that there are things up there, and maybe I should be looking up, and maybe I should be recording weird stuff that I see in the sky. And this was a perfect example of that happening. But I did let her know. I said, no, I said, it's awesome that you did that. But I want you to know that what you're filming right now, which is still awesome, is you caught a rocket being launched into space on camera. That is, you should be very happy and proud of that. That is a rare thing for, you know, someone to just catch. And this is what you caught. And she was so disappointed that it wasn't more than that. She was disappointed that it wasn't more than just the SpaceX rocket. But I let her know how rare that was, and it was still an awesome catch, and to still take pictures of things that you see in the sky. Once again, presenting evidence. Evidence is key to getting to where we're going to go, right? The only reason why a portion of us knew that that was SpaceX is because we've seen it before. We were educated on this weird anomaly in the sky, knowing that it's the rocket and the way that the gas is spread out at higher altitudes. So we've been informed and educated on that. And just the fact that when they called me this time, I didn't think twice about it. I just grabbed recording equipment, went out to film. This is how it should go. When it comes down to this community and the phenomena and how we're dealing with this is how it's supposed to go. Get your camera, grab it, regardless what it is. It could be a bird, reflecting off of something else. It could be something very mundane. It could be something very explainable. Doesn't mean it's not cool for you to capture, right? And then just having that reflex, that muscle memory is going to put you in the best position to capture something really, really awesome, just like this right here. The time that it, excuse me, the time that it took for that rocket to go across the sky and then get out of sight was mere moments. So had she not thought to pull her phone out and just sat there stuck in awe, then we don't get this. We don't get this film right here, right? And at the end of the day, it's still a pretty cool catch because it's a SpaceX rocket being shot from over at Vandenberg Air Force Base, which isn't too far from where I'm at, probably 80 miles, something like that. And it wasn't just seen here. Obviously, this rocket was seen in Arizona, deep Southern California. So it was seen at a lot of different places at once. So it tells you that the altitude was super high. And I was kind of able to educate her on why the clouds, the smoke trail from this rocket was still glowing, even though it was essentially nighttime where we were. And I was letting her know the altitude, that thing is really up high and it's catching the setting sun. It's catching reflection from the setting. So it was an awesome learning moment. And it just showed progression in a person that did not initially see UFOs as something that's possible, didn't even think twice to take a look up at the sky, to keep your eye on the sky, or to pull out something to record when you do see something weird. And I think that's something we should all do, whether you have seen something before or not, whether you believe that these things are true, because there's no telling what you could catch. You can catch just like that something explainable, which would be a rocket. You might catch a really unique or awesome shooting star, or something that's still cool at the end of the day. So regardless where you stand on the phenomena, what part of it you, if you believe in it or not, it's still something that, looking up at the sky and keeping track of the things that you see up there is still something cool to do at the end of the day. So I wanted to show that. I made sure I told her that I was going to show this on the show as well, and had her send those over to me. But awesome catch. I don't know if I could probably stand out there every day for the next 6 months and never catch a rocket, right? And so I think that's just pretty cool. So with that being said, Lavera's bringing up something pretty cool here. I just want another experience. It doesn't truly matter if there are witnesses. Yeah, and I can understand that. I kind of sit in that boat too a little bit, because I'm for sure I can say with certainty that what I saw was very strange. I could say that things that human beings have made up to this point that we know of, it's just not possible. And I truthfully, there's this whole idea that human beings have somehow are somehow super advanced behind the scenes. Like we're not the same people. Like like it's still reality as far as the one that we're living in. So when we see black projects come out, they don't have super, cutting edge, new, unheard of propulsion systems. They're going with the same ones that have, been that have preceded them, right? So with that being said, there usually ends up at some point showing new tech at some point, and I just haven't seen anything that has been released to this point that displays any of the characteristics of the things that I saw, right? So that kind of just leaves me in that box there. But at the same time, that was 2 years ago. And I'm glad I got it on video, because if it was just a memory, memories fade, obviously. It's something that you struggle to remember if you're remembering it correctly or not. So I was lucky enough to get it on film. And but I don't technically think that those were manned UFOs. I don't think there were little aliens inside of those things. They were probably, if I had to guess, they were maybe 3 to 5 feet in diameter, each one of them. And I just don't, and maybe there were something in them. I feel like they were more sort of drone sort of things. So maybe like UFO drone, something that they may send out from a UFO is kind of what I'm feeling. Same thing like the orbs and a lot of those other weird spheres and things that likely aren't being manned by something, but controlled by something remotely from somewhere else is more likely. And I want that moment. Richard Dolan talks about it all the time. You have people that go out at 2 in the morning to have a cigarette and just happen to look up and see a huge silent UFO hovering over a neighborhood or something like that. Now, I want one of those sightings. I don't know if I'll ever get one, but I can understand that, Lavera, still wanting that next sighting. But don't hang you can hope for it. Don't beat yourself up over it though, right? Because if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Um, maybe practice CE5. I don't know if you already do that, but apparently that's a tool. Psionics is what they're calling it, right? Something where you can call something in, or go out with a group that does that. Go out with the group that calls in craft, and you may be witness to something on your time, right? So something within a reasonable time frame where you can go out on this tour and see something. It's very possible. I couldn't guarantee it for you because I haven't been out on one myself to say that, but I hear that they get results, So hey, why not go out and test it out for yourself? I plan to do the same thing, and yeah, maybe that's how we see something else, but yeah, it's just having that muscle memory. And if everybody felt like that, and it was just cool to see it in a young person, I think, is to kind of go a step further to see, these are the minds that will be taking over for us in this field, in this subject. They'll be doing their own shows in 15, 20 years about the subject if it hadn't come out already. And it's just cool to kind of see that curiosity ignited within the younger demographic. So bravo to her, and I think that's actually pretty awesome. So looking in the chat here, Joey Monk is they're talking about something in here, and he's saying if we really landed on the moon. What do you think about the moon? What do you think about the moon? They have those orbiters, those Chinese orbiters that are orbiting the moon right now, that have apparently taken pictures of Apollo landing spots. So when you, and I've done a show about this, if you go in my archive, it might be something we could look at here, the moon show. But I gave good reasons why it made sense that we landed on the moon based on the evidence that we have and evidence that's out there currently, why it made sense that we likely did land on the moon. But then I also gave very compelling counter arguments on why maybe we didn't and why it didn't make sense that we did. When I saw the movie Moonfall, I don't know how many people that fall into thinking that that's a possibility. Is it even plausible? That's kind of what I'm looking at. And that's pretty much how I've been looking at all UFO movies since the realization has come to me, and I've had my experience with the UFOs, that I go back now and I look at these UFO movies, and I look and I was like, man, does that make sense? Like, is that plausible right there? And the whole artificially built moon base, I mean, the moon being an artificially built entity, I would like to know how you guys feel about that, because I don't really, I can't really say. Let me see. Who says any, wow, Amy, never heard of Moonfall? Let's see. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is what it is, and this is the thing, and this is the way that I come at it. Right, Joe Monks, Rob's talking the real shit. Sometimes you see satellites, sometimes you see a UFO, sometimes you see something you don't know what the f it is, and that's just being real, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what people hate about our community, right? Is that if you see something weird, it automatically is tagged as a UFO, which technically, if it's unidentified, it technically means that. But we know what UFO means. It's alien spacecraft, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, it's just responsible. It's just a Okay, I think we're back. I think we're back. Let me make sure. Can you put a one in the chat if we're back? Are we back? Can you guys hear me? Are we good? Okay, cool, cool. All right. So yeah, so internet issue. So we're running off a hotspot right now. We're running off a hotspot. So this hopefully should carry us through the show. It's looking like it's doing good so far. Okay, so I'll have to edit that chunk out of the show later, but I don't know where I left off. But basically, it's cool that young people are getting into this. It's just makes me feel really good that people are seeing this as different, and we do have to do our diligence when just jumping to conclusions on things that are up in the sky or things will take it further. 'Cause I know we have a person in the back that has experienced Bigfoot, and we'll talk about that. But even going into that, and I think the talk about this on the other show we did the other day is we just have to set a standard for what we consider as evidence that we're presenting to the public. So, with that being said, let me go ahead and get in. Let me get in. Oh, okay. Guest dropped out. Yeah, I have unlimited internet, but after 250 megabytes, it throttles down to snail mode. And we're gonna see what happens here. We're gonna go as long as the well. See, the thing is that the home internet, for some reason, late at night does this weird thing where it drops internet for whatever reason, and usually picks up and is okay. So once I see that it's okay, I'll switch back over to the home internet. Excuse me, and then we'll continue on. But for right now, we'll just run off the hotspot because that is unaffected. Okay, yeah, I had somebody back there, and now they're gone. Okay, so yeah, just finishing off that thought. Yeah, it's just something we should definitely do. Is it's our duty, I think, and I think one of the main things that I was saying was that there's people out there that have never experienced anything, just like Lavera's like, hey, I can't wait until I experience something else. You know what I mean? And I told I'm with you on that. I definitely am. I feel the same way. Um, but at the same time, let's just make sure that you're still capturing data, but then you're not just immediately jumping to the conclusion that what you have is a UFO, because there's somebody out there that may have seen something similar. In the example I gave was like the rocket launch, where there's people in the audience who had never seen that image, and I was for sure that everyone had seen that image by now. Posted as but apparently not. So that just shows you right there that you could have something that is been categorized as this, but some people still haven't seen it, so they can't really speak to it, or they'll immediately think it's so weird that it has to be a UFO, and it's not. In that example is definitely not the case, right? So it's just what we have to do, because I hate the fact I really don't like about this whole thing is the way that the UFO community is looked at. Period. I just don't like that. Right? Because I'm a genuine dude. Like, I'm not going to embellish a story. I'm not going to just make something up because it sounds good, it's popular, it might get some views. I'm not going to ever be that guy, right? So I take this pretty seriously as far as how this is affecting humanity and where we're supposed to go, like the moment that we're in, how important that this really is. And, it's disheartening to see how some of those people on the outside view this community. But I understand why, right? It's not that I don't understand. I understand why people do look at the community like that, and it's because there's a lot of jumping to conclusions without getting or vetting the evidence. We can say that if we're being truthful, we can all say that about the community, and then we can also say there's a portion of the community that simply just makes stuff up. I think we could all agree on that too. We probably could point to someone as an example of that if we needed to, right? So, with that in mind, kind of going forward with the way that we handle this subject, and that's where I think a lot of people get upset about where or why some of the people, I won't say at the top because I don't feel like there's a hierarchy, but the people that are driving the narrative on the mainstream level um, kind of want to separate from that part of the phenomena. I understand that. I get that. You can't, even though you love your crazy old uncle, right? Are you going, and you could probably dress him up real nice. Are you going to take him to, an important business meeting where you're judged by character, and where something really big could be on the line? Are you going to risk taking your crazy old uncle, right? And that's kind of what it is, right? Because if we're going to go sit in front of something very official, it's something that is going to officially, you know, validate, then we need to bring in our best guns for something like that. We need to bring in our best evidence, the best things that we could bring to the table for to forge that fight is what we would need to do. And that means some of the other stuff kind of gets left behind. It's understandable. Does it make it right? No, because there are individuals attached to those stories that feel like, why do you not feel that my story is important? And I don't, and I think that's kind of where the message is being mixed up when we talk about that. I don't think that technically experiences stories are being shoved aside. It's just, hey, if we're going to talk about this in this official capacity, let's bring forth the things that we can have validated and repeated. And that's kind of why they're going down the science path. So it's all about understanding that, not being offended by it, because I think a lot of people in the community are offended by that sort of stance. I get it though. Disclosure, may not, even though we do shows and things like that, disclosure may not include me on that level. Likely won't, right? But on this level, we're having the conversations, right? Which is very important because it's a trickle down effect, snowball effect. So what we're doing down here is helping things on the higher levels. We're validating things whether you know it or not by us cleaning up the way that we handle collecting our own evidence on this level that we're on is going to help the conversation on those private rooms, in those you know in those other areas. If I'm even saying that correctly, I hope that came across right, but that's essentially what I'm trying to say here. And let's see. Zenzabil, I have Starlink, no limits, and I get about 280 megabits per second down, but now latency is still 25 to 30 milliseconds. Yeah, and we talked about Starlink too. I mean, Starlink is a cool thing to have, but that could go down to a. It just depends. That could lead into some trouble. Just Starlink being a global thing like that, being able to have internet anywhere. Would you want the Android robot that is equipped with the latest AI that's mobile? Would you want something like that to be able to connect to any internet anywhere in the world? Ah, I don't know. I don't know. Joe Monk, Rob, as a kid, we used to watch launches on the Southern California coast all the time. This is back before the internet. This was back before anybody had cameras. Yeah, I mean, I would assume, like, I've been here in Bakersfield which is not far from Vandenberg if you look on the map. for at least, what is it now? Almost 5 years. I haven't seen a single launch. I've been out at all hours of the night as well, and I have not ever seen anything launch until last night or yesterday, and I didn't even see it. I was called out to see it, but had that not happened, I would have missed that too. And even though I'm sitting right here by the base, I would not have seen them. All right, let me see. Joe Monk is saying, I'm an old man. The United States government has things that you would not believe. I worked around some of it. I don't know why we haven't released it. That's the argument, right? It's hard to say. I'm sure they have some really cool. Let me start by saying that I don't think what we are seeing out here is all we have. Like we are no further along than the latest thing released, like what the B-21, right? We're no. I'm not saying we're that. That's as far as we have come. I'm sure there's some really cool things behind the scenes, but is it reverse engineered technology from aliens? Is it anti gravity? Is it the ability to travel faster than the speed of light? Like the things that we tie to the phenomenon, the extraterrestrial presence, are we doing that? That's the question. Yeah, we're doing some cool stuff behind the scenes. We're doing some stuff that probably would be mind blowing if they brought it out and showed it, which you kind of feel like they should be at a point to where they're going to show at least what they claim is government by projects based on that Wall Street Journal article. But yeah, there's going to be cool things that they haven't released. But is it the things that we're looking for, the things that we're tying to the extraterrestrial presence? That's the key. And that's the part that I feel like I don't know if we can replicate something that didn't originate from here. I just don't know how you would do that. Right? And I'll give you the perfect example of that. The perfect example of that is foreign cars, right? So anybody who's worked on a car and Dodge, Chevy, for the American brands, and then you get a BMW that comes in, you don't know how to fix this thing. You don't know what tools to use. They have their own specialty tools. You cannot something you would normally be able to do on a Ford, you cannot do on this BMW because of the engineering and the tools that they use are common overseas. They're not common here. So you have to order tools, you have to order a manual, you have to do all those things. And we're talking about terrestrial items here. So do you really feel like an extraterrestrial vehicle gets here from wherever it comes from, and we even have the tools to begin working on this thing? What type of tools do they use? Tools, right? Let's start there. And I think that's where the logic conversation starts to break down the even the thought that we're sitting here reverse engineering or we've built some sort of alien craft, and keeping in mind that we've only been flying in the air as humans for a little over 100 years. Not very well either for the first 10 years of that time, right? So I don't think we have the tools unless aliens have toolkits in their spaceships. Where in the world would we have the tools? How do we even know that we have the materials to build those tools, to manufacture those tools? That's where it gets murky. How can you answer that? How can that be answered, right? I think we definitely have created some cool stuff. I think we have some things that would be blow your mind if you saw them, and even triangle shaped craft potential. I even think maybe we did that. And I told you why I felt that way because of the B-21 bomber and all in the design language of everything that has come out of black projects over the last 50 years have all went with the angular sort of pattern and moving and morphing into triangular, which is what we're already getting now. You know, the B-2 bomber was the same way. It was a triangle essentially. It had a little chip, taken out of the back, but that was is essentially a flying triangle, right? It's essentially a flying triangle. So yeah, we probably do have something like that. But does that triangle have the ability to defy gravity? That's where I think it's a no, right? You can take the shell of a Ferrari and put a Pinto engine in that. Doesn't make it a Ferrari, right? That's what I'm talking about. Visually, okay, very impressive. Very impressive. But what is the technology behind it as far as propulsion goes? Are we doing something new? Are we doing something that we couldn't already do? Because new doesn't mean we never had the ability to do it and we just discovered it. There are all sorts of different propulsion types that have been talked about with like nuclear detonations and all sorts of different methods that they've talked about that are very plausible, options to kind of to move forward. So are those craft using that more likely than something that we totally don't even didn't build or don't understand as human beings? And it's controversial to say something like that because I don't know why some people simply seem to believe that because we are humans, we are the greatest thing since sliced bread, and we just have the ability to build anything we want if we put our minds to it. I think yes, in some aspects, but we got to go back to materials, right? Are the materials and the way that they process materials, is that achievable even right here on this planet Earth? Gravity, the all the different elements of this planet, go into answering that question. If it's a totally different type of planet, then they are going to have likely a lot of different minerals and resources than what we have here. So yeah, I'm more and more that reverse engineering conversation goes. I'm just more against that being possible. I just what what has anyone out in the world seen that points to it being plausible? Like, just show me evidence. That's all I need. I believe this. Therefore, fact, we have both ours and theirs, and that goes back to the Ben Rich thing. The we have the ability to take ET home. Yeah, we've recovered craft that have crashed or landed here, however you want to look at it. And technically, if we have that in our possession, then we have something that has the ability to take someone to another star system. Can we use that? Are we able to operate it? Doesn't mean we're able to do that, right? At all. It doesn't really mean we're able to do that at all. So that's kind of what we got to look at because I think we kind of, you know, I, I just would like to see the people that say yes, we have a reverse engineered craft. The people who, for without a doubt, say yes, this is something we did. I just want to see where you got the information from, because it has to be more than a story that you heard. It has to be more than a story. You have to have something that leads you to believe that this is something that is true. And I don't know what you would have to see it being exhibited. Is I would only think the only way unless you worked on it yourself. But then even then, it's something you would have likely seen exhibited, whether actually or just in the lab, as far as in the lab goes, like the formula. Area 51. Oh, or Marie K is saying, oh, everyone knows about Area 51, yet it supposedly doesn't exist. And Joe Monk, Area 51 is just a military base. It's out in the middle of the desert where people can't see what's going on and they fly stuff around. Yeah, yeah. I mean, at this point, I don't think that they would keep what they were doing there if they were working on. So if Bob Lazar is correct, which I don't see any reason why, anything that shows that he isn't, then yeah, likely they did at some point, but I now probably not. Zenzabil, we must have all kinds of trickle down tech from captured or recovered alien tech. You would think so, but how could you reproduce it? That's my thing. Trickle down, okay, meaning we couldn't reverse engineer that, but because of that thought process that went into that, that we could take terrestrial materials that we have and do something cool with those. Okay, I'm with you on that. That's very possible, right? Just the thought process to say, hey, what went into that? Let's try to figure out what went into that. Okay, we can't recreate that, but we could use that same thought process on something materials that we have. Yes, I believe that that's very possible. That's done all the time. I think just in with adversaries and things of that nature. I think that's all done all the time. But you know, if you get an alien spoon, for instance, and it's made out of some material that we've never seen on this planet, well, you can't recreate that alien spoon. You can create something that looks like it based on the materials that we have, but you can't recreate that alien spoon if you can't multiply the material into more material, right? It just can't happen. So their tech, probably not. Something, a cool idea a concept or something that came from dealing with that, yeah, definitely, definitely. And that's where the cool things come in. But when we talk about anti-gravity, yeah, I don't think we have that. I don't think we have cracked anti-gravity. There are some people right now that are still alive from well, let me see. This is about 120, and maybe this is not true. Maybe there's someone over 125 years old, but close enough. One human lifetime, at the beginning of that lifetime, we couldn't fly. At the end of that lifetime, we are anti-gravity. It's just, if you look at it like that, it just doesn't make sense that we would that quickly be able to go from a species that couldn't fly at all to a species that now is floating around defying gravity. And I think it probably likely took extraterrestrials longer than that to get to that point too. You would have to assume that. I'm sure it's something they didn't figure out in 100 years. So why are we so special that we all of a sudden, are the ones that were able to do it? Yeah, granted, we have an example if we have a crash craft, but that's even if we know how to work the craft. How we don't know what the capabilities of said craft are unless the extraterrestrials sitting right there explaining to us what we're doing or what we're looking at. Once again, you could go to the car analogy, back to the car analogy, a supercar versus just something off the lot is two different beasts. And because you know how to operate this car doesn't mean that you can successfully operate this supercar. It doesn't mean that it's the same thing, right? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. As we look through this. Yeah, good point, Bim Jim. And this is, appreciate your comment here. Humans have been doing science for 400 years. In top level science, if you want to really like groundbreaking stuff, has been of late, right? But yeah, 400 years, and the universe is 14 billion years old. Try to understand that. Just a blip on the radar, and I just don't feel like just because we have iPads, we have new iPhones with new features every year. Some of the things that we talked about in movies 40 years ago are somewhat becoming reality, like the Get Smart shoe phone, right? We're kind of doing that. We're talking on watch phones like Inspector Gadget, right? We're doing that. We're using these tabs like on a lot of the old science fiction shows and films from like 30, 40 years ago, like we're doing that. So yeah, we're achieving things and we're kind of setting a bar for ourselves and kind of trying to achieve the science fiction item and turning it into reality. I think we've done that successfully on some levels, but I don't know that an extraterrestrial anything that has to do with extraterrestrial technology falls into that category. And the thing is that you could always there's always going to be room to say no, no, we definitely have. We've reverse engineered, and I'm open to hearing that. But hey, let's where can we find anything that points to that, right? Where can we find anything? And that's the one of the problems in our community is we're so quick to give it the benefit of the doubt. We're so quick to say, okay, the government's this. They're so smart. Work in those programs. They're like the smartest humans, and they can do anything that they put their mind to. I don't know that that's the case. Ask Bob Lazar. He says they pull these things out every 10, 15 years to see if we have progressed enough to crack the code. That if you do that enough times, you do that 5, 6, 7 times, all of a sudden you're like 80 years. So if he was there in 1990, they've been having this material for 50 years prior to that, and they've been trying to do this. They hadn't broken in, they haven't reverse engineered or gained any knowledge off it as up to 1990. So at least as far as we can tell by Bob Lazar's story, so are you telling me that from 1990 or 89 to be more specific, from 1989 until today they cracked the code? Because remember, Bob Lazar was there in Area 51 in 1989 is when that whole thing broke with him and George Knapp. And then it was like, according to our good friend Jim Goodall, who's friends with Ben Rich, talks about him saying that we could take ET home in like 1993 or 94. So are you saying that between 1989 and 1994 they discovered, excuse me, the tech to take ET home? And then even on the long scale from 89 until now, I gotta, there's siblings, children that'll be approaching that age, not too in the not too distant future. And you're saying, I remember what I was doing in 1989, and you're trying to tell me in that window of time, 36 years, I think that's 36 years. Yeah, 36 years that Bob Lazar, who was at S4 working on trying to figure out these craft that they have from then until now, 36 years, we've cracked anti gravity. And to put it even more into perspective, not only that, but the Tic Tac incident happened in 2004. So you're telling me from 1989, when Bob Lazar was last had access to any of these craft, till 2004, which is only 15 years, that we developed something called a Tic Tac and we refined it against our own military. Because that's what they're saying. That's what is being hinted at in this Wall Street Journal article. That in that 15-year period, we created or we conquered anti gravity and we were building things that utilize that technology. What now? Here's where your common sense comes into play. Does that even sound logical? Does it even sound logical? It doesn't even sound logical on the face of it. And there's so many examples that we could point to historically that kind of debunks that whole part of the conversation. So it just it's crazy when people still feel like, no, yeah, we definitely reverse engineered it. And you have no proof of that being the case. As I said before, we have more proof of vehicles coming from outer space, from wherever they're coming from, exhibiting crazy capabilities that aren't coming from Earth. They're coming from out there. They're coming to Earth. So we have that evidence. We have the evidence that we often see these things in the sky. We have evidence that in a lot of cases, in almost all cases, the government doesn't know what in the world they are and can't effectively do anything about them. We know that. We also know that if you look at incidents where these things have gotten out of the craft, like Lonnie Zamora, once again, the Ariel School, once again, the Westall School, those examples of where things landed and got out, then we can say that the things that we've been seeing in the sky aren't related to humans. They're related to whatever the things that get out the craft are. And we can also say that those craft have been exhibited coming from outer space into our atmosphere. So we have evidence that says that these weird exotic things that we're seeing aren't ours. So where's the evidence that says that they are? Because we have a super secretive black project that they will never tell you what they're working on. So because of that mystique is enough to kind of put it on the line and say we've reverse engineered. It's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough. Yeah, let me go back a little bit here. Funny. Overlander, I still have a Transformer watch somewhere. You might want to find that. That Transformer watch might be worth something, Overlander. You might want to find that and dust it off, man, and maybe put it up for the grandkids because you might be able to cash that in down the line. Um, yeah, this is also a concern. This is yeah, we can talk about this as well. Joe Monk, the one thing I'm worried about is the Apophis satellite meteorite effing thingy that's coming in 2027. Yeah, yeah, you should be concerned about that. And we did a show about that too. It's crazy. I'm not just saying that. You check the archive. We did a show about asteroid impact coming before disclosure, and the asteroids falling from the sky. This has been the biggest fear I've had throughout my lifetime. Is looking up in the sky as something massive comes from outer space, a massive rock that crashes into the earth. That is really, you know, kind of one of the things that before I got into UFOs, it gets complicated after that. But just thinking about the whole asteroid situation and what that can mean for us is crazy in itself, and it's enough for we talked about like we've talked about doomsday preppers. Right now, I used to think they were crazy back in the day. I used to watch the show like 15 years ago, and they'd say, oh, we're getting ready, we're preparing for X, Y, and Z. I used to look at that like that's crazy, that's never going to happen what you guys are talking about, like the economy just fully collapsing. Like what it would take something crazy for that to happen. It's never going to happen. So what are you guys preparing for? I used to look at the show like that, but I used to watch it because it was interesting on the things they were doing to kind of stock up, and I thought that was pretty, cool. Kind of seeing them, the efforts that they went to do, and I would think by the end of every show, I'm like, man, you'll probably pass away before you ever need to use that. Not thinking though, because it's better to be prepared than not to be prepared, really. And once I realize that, then I go back and I look at Doomsday Preppers, and I'm like, man, it's genius to be ready for something just in case. It isn't a waste of time at all. It's actually pretty genius because going to the asteroid thing, that's something that could happen with no warning at all, as you saw in Russia. And we covered in the show. Really good show. You should go back and watch it. But um, the Chelyabinsk meteorite, the one that came in 2013. The ones that come in from the sun, we can't see. So we have no forewarning of, and they just show up. And as you saw in that video, if you've ever seen it, the moment it was seen in the sky from the moment it had exploded was literally seconds. And what can you do in seconds? You can't do anything but sit there and just watch it, right? You can't do anything, right? So yeah, that's a scary thing. I'm concerned about the things they tell us about, and then the things that they just haven't tracked out there. Space is so vast. They say they try to make us feel like they've found and documented like all the larger ones, the ones that they would consider planet killers. But still, you got something that could wipe out a whole city by itself. That's scary. So you're saying you haven't tracked all those, but you tracked the ones that would just blow the planet up into pieces. Well, I appreciate that because that's a big deal. But even to live through something where a meteorite hits on the other side of the world and is big enough to destroy a city at one time, just once, just all gone. That's something to be concerned about too. Anything. That's what I'm saying. Looking up at the sky is something we should probably always do, right? So anything that stops us from doing that is probably at our disadvantage or puts us at a disadvantage. Let's see. This would be a cool thing, and this would be Kurt M. The only way I could see it happening, it would have to involve. And let me read the comment. Kurt M. is saying there are stories that mankind has been working side by side with ET. If that's true, we could have conquered anti gravity. Absolutely correct, because they're going to tell us how it works. They can tell us if we can supplement a tool for a tool, or they may have the ability. It doesn't. They don't use tools at all, or there's some other method that they use. Yeah, if they're there to tell us, then I can totally agree with you that there would definitely that be the only way that we could actually conquer anti-gravity. But then you'd have to ask yourself, why would they show us that in the state that we are as humanity and human beings, and showing that a perfect example of what's going on in the world right now. If we're showing we don't even like each other, like who do you decide to show that tech to? Right? I think they're smart enough to see that there's conflict happening here on a daily basis and that we aren't at a level where they probably should even be talking to us, right? But if they are, I don't know if they would give us those keys like that, because our main thing is war. I think that's pretty clear to anyone that comes in from the outside. We got fighter jets coming up to take a look at you. It's offensive. We're on the offensive all the time, and the defensive, depending on how you look at it. But we're quick to go see what that is to make sure it's not a threat. So anything that comes here is going to be met with that. And then on the other hand, anything they see in the ocean is likely military. So I think they might have a good idea that we are a warring planet, and I don't know that they would give us anything like that. Why would they show us that? That's my thing. I can agree though, if we are, because we don't know, we could be working with them. The whole government thing where they talk about the meeting with the president. All that could be a true story. If it is, then you have to take into consideration that maybe they showed us some stuff. I could be open to that. I could definitely be open to that. But they could have also come here and said, "Hey, we're not working with you guys at all until you get rid of these nuclear weapons." And so they come here in 1960 to say this, or whenever this conversation was supposed to happen, and then they give us a time frame, and because we are warmongers like we are, we're not giving these things up. We're not getting rid of the nukes. We won't do it. We won't do it until everyone else has. If we can prove everyone else has gotten rid of theirs, then we'll get rid of ours. So maybe there's a timeline. Maybe they said, hey, you got 80 years to do it or else. And who knows what else is, And I don't know that they just come here and say, hey, man, let me share it. Let's share. We got this cool anti gravity tech. Let me share that with you. I don't know that they just come in and do that, right? I think they could, right? It's up to them, but I don't know that that's what they're doing. This is what a lot of people say. And Joe said we cracked anti gravity way before '89, and when people say that, they'll go back to um, that study that was being done in the '50s, which was in it's in paperwork, so it says that this is what they were doing, but and then the program mysteriously just shut down or stopped continuing, right? And so people assume that because that happened, then they figured out anti-gravity, which that's what people hang the hat on, is that's why they believe anti-gravity had been cracked by humans, is because we had a program that was supposedly focusing on anti-gravity, and then that program discontinued a few years later. So it's like, oh, we figured it out, no need to continue this program. That's the belief that a lot of people out there have. But that isn't, I don't think that's a correct answer. There's a lot of programs that we've had that didn't last long that we've ended up discontinuing. And then it doesn't mean that that we've had any fruit that came from that. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think that's what, when we talk about the we've cracked anti gravity conversation, that's what people are hanging their hat on to say that we have. So, and then how can you prove it's anti gravity? How can you prove if unless you can, run thermals on it or something? How can you tell that this is an anti gravity craft, right? So that goes back to the government triangles that are out there, and are they government? Are they not? Yeah, they probably do have triangles, but they probably fly just like uh, any other previous plane. Let me see. You're gonna be a millionaire, Orlando BC, if you have all this. I still have about 12 Rubbermaid bins of G1 Transformers, GI Joe, Star Wars, Nika. I'm not sure what that is. Uh, yeah, TM. I know Mutant Ninja Turtles, Masters of the Universe, Predator, Aliens, Ghostbusters, and a ton of obscure horror figures and randoms. That sounds like a gold mine there, buddy. Bim Jim saying, "Hey, I was on EV Mux once. It didn't work very well. That's what I use now, Bim Jim, and it definitely has bugs. It's temperamental for sure. I would probably still be on StreamYard if they didn't jack the prices." Office, what is that, Rob? Office is going to f up your day. Oh, Apophis. Oh yeah, I'm with you. Hey, and if you, a lot of people don't like talk about stuff like that. That's the other thing. A lot of people are afraid of what could be. And that happens in the UFO conversation too. That's why I think a lot of people feel like these things are going to be here for love and light because they hope they will be. But there's nothing that says that that's going to be the case or why they're here, right? And so once again, tying into the Doomsday Preppers combo, that's why you just got to be ready for anything that happens. But with these, I'm just so afraid of these space rocks, man. Until we have a way to completely defend ourselves from things like that, it's one that will always. I had a horrible dream one night about it middle of the day, and I don't even remember what city I was in, but I was going to see some family. I was kind of walking down the street with some buildings, parking garages, and just looked up in the sky, and it just started raining meteorites all over the sky. Just some exploding in the sky, some hitting the ground. It was crazy. It's my worst nightmare. I'm telling you, man. Space rocks are my worst nightmare. Joe Monk. You people have 2 years to get your ish together. Okay, I hear you. Let me see. All right, Joe Monk saying, I'll be honest with you. I don't think the aliens give a rat's ass about our nuclear capabilities or anything else. They know we are going to go by the way of the dodo. Yeah, they could just be here for the show. It's scary. That's the thing. That's why the question now is, why are they here? Because it's so important to know. Like, is it as Joe Monk saying, like foreshadowing to, them just watching us destroy ourselves, which we know we're on the path to do that, especially if you look at what's going on in the world right now. It just further confirms that we're just on a path to annihilate ourselves. And so we don't need any help from aliens coming in and doing it because we're just going to do it ourselves. We don't really need Apophis to come fall on the planet because we're going to make sure that we off ourselves anyway. Just some kind of way we're going to make sure that we do it by at our own hands, right? Which I think is bananas. Joe Monk also maybe the aliens are pissed off because we're not warlike enough. I don't know, man. I think we would have seen if they were strictly warmongers. I think we would see more aggression from them. I think they're ready to defend themselves, and I think I said this to some. I don't know who I was talking to, but I was saying I can bet you they have some sort of way on their ships to defend themselves. Weapons, if you want to call them that, but I'm sure they have some sort of defensive mechanism, not for us necessarily, but just for the other things that are out there. And I'm sure you encounter other things. The deeper you go out there in space, it's very likely. If you look at just Earth, right, you can go through 600 miles of nothing desert before you eventually hit a populated area or before you come back across signs of life. I don't think it's much different out there. You're going to go through vast distances of not seeing anything before you happen up on some sort of population or life or something, right? Some sort of something you might be able to deem a threat. So, because of that, you would have to assume that these things that come here have weapons aboard their ship, and it's about, what causes them to use those or not. That's the question. Like, would they just use it just because, or is there some? Could they be triggered in some way to do it? I don't know. I don't know. And that the problem with that is that when you have governments over you like that, they could trigger something that you had no intent on triggering, right? Because they take this defensive stance or offensive stance when it comes to something unknown. They want to go out there and fly the jets near it and kind of see. So we don't know what the triggers are. Any of those things could be triggers. Yeah, for Sack, thanks for your support for the show tonight as well as talking about. I like the idea of ET war shaming us. Good for them. We should listen. We should. We really should. And then this is what really shows you. Just that thought alone right there from Deb from Sacramento. And then just think about the fact that these same people that are creating these wars and putting us in situations where citizens who don't have no skin in the game have to go through these powers fighting each other using horrific weaponry to do so, right? And they also are the same people that know about the extraterrestrial presence but don't want to say it for the benefit of humanity. And you have to look at those two things to just figure out who it is that you're dealing with. So And I hate to say that because in some instances people can point you out and say, "Oh, you're anti-government," or "No, I'm not." But I'm. Let's look at the facts. Like, we have governments around the world, not just ours here in the U.S. We have other powerful governments in the world who have to, at this point, all have some knowledge of the extraterrestrial presence and have done studies into what that means on their end, and then they're privy to the our conversations that we have, so they have an understanding of why what most people think the alien presence is about, all around, from what they know and from what they've heard from our communities. And to have all that knowledge and to still choose war just kind of shows you what you're dealing with. And that's why I say this moment that we're in is so huge for humanity, because we actually have a choice to say we want to continue doing that the way we're doing it, or this is a moment where we want to all stand up and say, hey, this needs to be handled in a different way. This structure that we have isn't going to work, like, going forward. There's like, the reality sinks in at that moment that we are, as a species, being suppressed by our own. And it's a sad state of affairs, man. It's a sad state of affairs. This could be true, Joe Monk. We mean nothing to the aliens. That could be true. That could be very true. I've never, and I put it like this because this goes. Some people will say exactly what you're saying. We mean nothing to the aliens, which could be most likely true when you think about how much life is out there in the universe. Do they care about everything? Probably not everything. They probably don't care about all life, right? They may care about who knows what they care about. We just don't know. But at the same time, one thing I was looking at was, okay, so they come here, their craft crash. They Sometimes there's bodies in the craft that we retrieve, and our governments take them back to wherever they take them to. And so I was looking at it like, even if you looked at it and said, okay, maybe they are coming in to help. So even if that was the angle initially, wouldn't you think over time, if they keep losing some of their members, to our governments taking them into these rooms and doing whatever they do, don't you think that would change that relationship or the feeling between them and us at some point in time, where they're just like, dude, give us the bodies back. Like, what are you doing with the bodies? Right? And the reason why I would even think about that is because if we went to another planet like Mars, right? We're planning on going to Mars at some point here. So if we go to Mars, the first shuttle over there with the group of people, we get there and we find out that there are actually things living on the ground, and we lose one of our members to, they capture one of our members, for better way to put it. We're not going to just leave, or if we do, we'll be back, and we're going to want to at some point retrieve our fallen member. We're going to want to do that. So is it not far off to assume that they wouldn't want to do the same thing if they initially had a good feeling about human beings on this planet who didn't have technology at first when they came around? Maybe we're different now that we have technology. Maybe we're, not the same. They don't look at us the same, right? I think that's a big conversation to have. What is the alien perception of human beings and humanity? Do they care? Do they not care? Do they care that we've captured these bodies in these crash craft and haven't given them back? Or, as some people say, do they look at those as vessels and no real emotional tie to the body, because they understand that it's just a vessel, right? Very complicated thought process to even go down. Babylon Rose says they want to know why we are here. Wouldn't that be something? What if if this was theirs at some point? Because I'm under the belief that we didn't originate here. I feel like for some reason it just feels like we didn't. That may or may not end up being true. It just feels like we don't belong on this planet. Um, and maybe we came after they left. You know, maybe they left to go on vacation, which could be a billion year vacation, and we're the squatters. We just came in through the back door, and we kind of just been living here this whole time since. And now they're back, like, hey, what are you guys doing here? Like, who are you? Could be that. Could be that Babylon Rose. I would entertain that. That's a fun thought process. J True Seeker, Marie K. You say Mary, Marie K. You can actually fly out of the dream state above the earth. That's getting into astral travel and all that, which I think there's something to that. But I wouldn't jump on a limb. That's my thing. Yeah, I can see the plausibility in things, but until I can have something that or multiple things that point to that being the case, I won't step out on that limb, right? I could be open to it and say, yeah, I can see that how that could be possible. Because you can, if you're being honest. But to step out and be like, nah, this is what's happening, that's what I can't do. That's what I can't do. Overlander BC saying they let Mars get nuked and we knew they had a nuclear war on Earth before as well. There is evidence of that. There's talk that there definitely was evidence in the Martian soil of some sort of something that could only come from a nuclear blast. I think it was like the way the sand turns into glass. I want to say is what it was. So there was evidence of that. I'm under the feeling, the strong feeling that once we do get back to Mars, and once we do get there on, as foot on surface of planet, that once we begin digging there, I think we are going to find fossils that look very familiar to us, whether it's human or whether it's some other animal from this planet that we recognize. I think we're going to get there and we're going to recognize fossils immediately that we end up excavating under the surface of the planet. I just feel like that's going to be the case. We're too close to Mars. Mars was too much like Earth at one point. It just makes sense that if this planet were able to inhabit life at one point in its existence, then it would be the same thing for Mars. Then you'd have to ask yourself, since Mars is no longer alive, as far as we know, that did we come from that planet, right? Did we come from that planet? I think it's going to be interesting once we get over there and we can actually dig. We won't be here probably to see that, but I think it's definitely something that is going to happen at some point. Mm. Good question, Overlander. I wonder if a nuke goes off in our dimension, if it affects parallel dimensions, and if we can't see between the veils, that makes our activities high risk. Very possible. Because I asked somebody, we talked about dimensions one time. And I'm like, okay, if you were able to put on some glasses that allowed you to see all spectrums, would we end up seeing all these things that dip in and out of reality? Will we see them all present in this reality that we live in? Like a Bigfoot, for instance. We put these glasses on, we go in the forest. Are we just gonna see these things everywhere? These are gonna be just like any other animal that's out there. We be able to see them because we have the ability to kind of peek over, right? So if we're that closely melded together when we're talking about dimensions, then yeah, maybe a wave, a shock wave, a frequencies, any sort of thing like that may be able to cross over into that if it's right there with us at all times. Why not? Why not? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, Jay True Seeker. I didn't know. Yeah, it's probably far back in the chat now. Let me get that for you here. All right, put it back in the chat for you, J Truth Seeker, or anyone else who wants to join as well. Mm. Hmm. Great question. I mean, Overlander Rob, you say these people starting these wars. How do you know it's people? Excuse me. How do you know not know? How do you know it's not ET pulling these strings of geopolitical macabre? Yeah, truthfully, yeah, I'll go down that path with you. I thought, and this is wild, and I'm not saying that any of this is true. This is just something I thought because you got to think about things. I think about things all the time, and I go through different thought processes. And one of the things I was thinking about was the was mass shooters, right? And the phenomena behind that thing, right? Which doesn't make sense to the average human being. We look around and we're like, why the hell would someone go and just feel like they want to shoot up an entire mall full of people, innocent individuals for no reason at all? And I was thinking about it. And at the time that I thought about this, I think we had just done a show around telepathy and consciousness. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, well, maybe if we're looking at it like the Matrix, right? Where you have the agents that can kind of zap themselves into any of the characters on the film, right? They can just take over their. And I was thinking, I was like, maybe something like that is going on where you have this malevolent force out there in the world. It may be coming from extraterrestrial. I don't know. It may be coming from who knows demons if you want to go there. But maybe there's a moment where these things take over these individuals' bodies and then they do these horrific things being in the physical form. I know it's far off, but I was trying to reconcile why those people who do that do what they do. I was trying to just make sense of if there's sense to make of it, right? Because it's such a horrific thing and a decision that they make to say I'm going to go out and do this horrific thing, and then they do it, and then it's like, okay, how did these people just decide to do this one day? And I was like, are they being guided to do this? So that point that you're making here, Overlander BC, kind of ties into that and makes sense. Maybe in some moments where super bad things are happening, people say they're not in their right mind. Maybe there's something to that. I don't know. And we got Bim Jim in the back. I'm about to bring you in the front, Bim Jim, but I can hear the volume is up pretty high. We're echoing. All right, you ready? Okay. All right. Sounds like we're ready. All right, Bim Jim is on the stage, and so is J Truth
Oh,
Seeker.
how's it going?
Hey, appreciate you both for stepping up here.
This is complicated. Can you hear me now?
Greetings.
I can hear you. You
Oh,
are your volume is pretty hot though. Let me try to bring it down a little bit. Okay, unmute yourself now, Bim Jim.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Jay.
Right on.
okay.
Yeah, your volume is fine.
Can you
Jim's
hear
is
me
just a
now?
little hot. Yeah, I can hear you, Jim. Let me okay,
Now,
I'm
Rob,
bringing your volume down a little bit.
I see Truth Seeker.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's me. I'm right here. I'm
Okay.
actually
hey,
kind
Truth
of a
Seeker.
neighbor of
Hi.
Jim's because I live in his
No, I
same
can't
area.
hear Truth Seeker
Yeah.
either.
Well,
Oh, golly.
All right. You can hear me, Jay True Seeker, right?
yeah, I can hear you really good.
Okay, so Jim, you may
Oh,
have to go out and come back in.
I can hear
oh,
Jim really
okay.
good too.
I'm
Yeah,
good
because
now.
you can hear us? Okay, great.
I'm
All
good.
right, so you guys, thank you for coming in. I appreciate you guys coming up, jumping on stage, and adding to the conversation. What is this show? Like I said, it's for you guys anyway. What did you want to talk about?
Well, I wanted to make a comment to what you were saying about astral travel. I'll start with that first. And
Yeah.
that is, I've noticed that when I dream, like if ever you find yourself in a flying dream, all you have to do is imagine yourself accelerating yourself, like if you jump off of. Are you still there, Rob? Looks like we just lost Rob. Hello.
Nope. Yeah, I'm here. I'm
Okay,
here
there we
with you.
go. Okay. So yeah. So you just imagine yourself even jumping off of a cliff or something like that, and then you fly, and then you accelerate yourself. And as you accelerate yourself more and more and more and more, you'll actually fly above the earth. And it's almost as though that when you do that, you're not lucid dreaming anymore. I kid you not. So it's almost like the dream world is confined to the earth somehow. And then when you accelerate above the earth, you'll become completely, and I mean completely, lucid. And you'll see the Milky Way galaxy out there and planets and the moon and everything. When I tell friends about this, I say it's just like being an astronaut. In a way, you're an astronaut. You're outside of your body, and you can look back at the earth and look at the moon and everything. And it's just like being fully awake as you are now, and because you're not dreaming anymore. The only thing is that you're literally seeing everything through your eyelids, like the stars and everything. And
Right.
so my understanding is that when we dream, it's like what we actually do is we have clouds of images that are constantly changing around us. But once we're above the earth, you don't really have that anymore. And so I do this numerous times, even while sometimes I'll be sitting watching the show and I'll fall asleep in front of the computer, and then if I'm flying out there and then I accelerate myself. One time I accelerated myself right through the earth and came right out into space again. Um, so I actually encourage other people to try this to see what their results would be too. Um,
I'm interested. I'm interested
yeah.
because I've talked about having those dreams where I keep going back to the same place. I'm able to do. I've had the flying situation as well, and I would like to be able to kind of harness that because I would like to see where it could go, and that's kind of interesting that you bring that up. How do you like control yourself in order to be able to do that?
Well, you just keep going faster and faster and faster. Like how it actually happened is when I was flying in the dreams and I could feel myself accelerate. It became like a joyride. Just that every time I do it, it gets a little bit well, like when you get really really fast, and then all of a sudden you just automatically are out there in space, and it's like you're no longer seeing dream images anymore. So I'm kind of wondering if the astral dream state is actually somehow confined to the earth. And at one time I went to the moon to see what was there, and I could actually see, I kid you not, I actually saw people walking on the moon. And I was
So
thinking, what's that?
how for you, so when you have that experience, how do you reconcile that, the walking around the moon part?
Well, you'll see it right through your eyelids. Like even if you squint your eyelids, you'll still see it. Like when I'm dreaming, if you need to go back to your body, you just squint your eyelids, and as hard as you can, you'll automatically go back to your body. But even when I do that, when I'm out there in space, it's like I'll still see the stars and everything right through my eyelids, and the moon and everything. But when I went to the moon, I was surprised to see that there was a person walking up there in one of the craters. Like that really surprised me because I didn't think there was anybody up there, and that happened to about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And I've also been in the orbit of Jupiter, and it's actually when you're out there in space, it's actually really intimidating because because everything is so big. It's the stars and the nebula, like Milky Way nebulas, are incredibly beautiful, but it really is quite also kind of intimidating to find yourself way out there alone out there in space like that. But or just from my perspective, everyone I'm sure will feel differently about that.
Yeah, I mean, where do you think, where do you feel like, okay, so if you're able to kind of harness that ability, where do you think that takes you? Where do you like what do you where do you think that could go? What do you think we could get from being able to control where we can go?
Well, if you really want to go super fast, go to another galaxy, a galaxy far, far away. But I'm kind of hesitant in doing that. I'm not sure if I want to be that far out.
Hello?
I,
Hello?
yeah, I can
Uh,
hear
Yep.
you.
Preston Dennett has very experienced in astral traveling.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I've looked through his archives and studied up on that myself, eh? And because I'm I'm on the verge of astral traveling. I mean, I've been meditating since I was 17 years old, and I can't quite get the astral traveling, but
Yeah,
there's other things I can do. Now, dreaming, yes, I've had all the dreams you talk about there in simpler forms, but I've done all that stuff. And but when I talk about my dreams, okay, I don't call dreams experiences. I don't mix those two up, eh? But like, so what Preston Dennett
You're
does, Preston
I'm
Dennett,
sorry, I'm sorry. I got to stop you 1 second. I'll let you continue. I just want to make sure our caller came in. Are you in
yeah.
there, Joe?
Joe.
Oh, is that Joe Monk?
Joe, can you hear me? Hold on.
Oh,
Joe,
I'd love
can you
to
hear
talk
me?
to Joe Monk.
All right, I can't hear Joe. Hold on. Got all that all up. I should hear him. Can you hear us, Joe?
No, I'm not hearing anything from here.
I'm not. I heard the call come in. I heard the voice. I can't hear Joe. We can't hear you, Joe. But if you click the link, it'll bring you right on stage. You can stay off camera if you need to.
Wow.
So
All right.
JT,
Yep. Go.
Yeah.
I highly recommend you look at Preston Dennett's explanation of all these things. You
Oh,
know,
definitely.
and personally, I don't trust my own dreams. I've had many that you speak of, but I also get very weird dreams that so it makes me I don't trust the dream world. You know,
Yeah.
I'm a science guy, so
Well,
I try
when
to
you
see
go above the
what
earth, you're actually going out of the dream world. I kid you not.
when
Like
you what
there's nothing up there. Like when you sleep.
when you what.
So when you go above the earth, like if you're in a flying dream and you go above the earth,
Yep.
you're no longer in that dream world. Like that's what I
Yeah.
discovered.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Okay.
everything's solid, just like
But it,
now.
but at the same time, JT, I'm a science guy,
Oh yeah, for
and
sure.
I trust what I see with my own eyes when I'm wide awake.
Yeah,
That's my primary data set is what I see with my own eyes when I'm wide awake. Okay, I look up at the sky, I see a UFO flying by in the daytime with
yeah,
a friend, and I ask my friend, "What are those things?" And she says, UFOs. Okay, I trust that. I saw it with my eyes. I was wide awake. My friend verified what I saw. So that's my UFO sighting. Okay, that's to me that's real. Whereas dreams, I don't know. I mean, there are people. Oh gosh, this dreaming gets pretty weird. But there are people who can put a dream into your mind. These are actual
Yeah,
humans.
I've heard about that before.
Yeah, and they're dangerous and bad people. They use it for bad purposes. So I'm careful about dreams. I mean, I could go on and on about all
Yeah,
my weird apocalypse dreams and this and that and solutions to problems. I've dreamed solutions to problems even, and
yeah,
stuff like that, right? And whereas I do meditate, but I keep my meditation separate from my dreaming
yeah,
because
and that's understandable. Well,
yeah. So
but
yeah,
what?
I've had all the
Yeah.
flying dreams, of course, yes, and lucid flying dreams where I know I'm dreaming and I can control my own flying and all that. I've done that, yes, but I don't trust that source of information, that dream source.
Well, that's fine because you don't need to because the dream source that you're talking about, what that is just created thoughts created within our own mind as our brain recapitulates experiences from that, or desire. Well, not just experiences, but our brain will, or imagination will recapitulate images from our what we've experienced and what we desire. And so that's kind of what you're referring to. But I actually took courses in astral projection stuff too in the past. And I've also achieved telepathy with extraterrestrials and Sasquatches and that.
Telepathy is something I know a lot about. That
Yeah,
I've explored that up, down, and sideways, every which way. I've done telepathy hundreds of times.
yeah, exactly.
I have repeatable experiments that people can try in telepathy. I would like to teach telepathy. I think I can teach people to do it. I'm very telepathic. Oh my goodness. It's actually it gets a little scary sometimes. I have
Yeah.
to suppress my telepathy. I have to suppress it because otherwise because if you have a telepathic conversation with another human being, you don't know what kind of crazy person they are.
Oh,
You don't
yeah,
know
yeah,
you don't
exactly.
know what I mean, I've got some bizarre messages and images from random individuals or even people I know and it's I don't want to do it. I don't want to know what somebody else is thinking all the time because they're thinking weird stuff sometimes, right?
Well, you have to remember that people generally think apprehensively. Like every person I know, if you're that telepathic with them, you'll discover that they think apprehensively. And also,
I
nobody
can't
really has
I
secrets.
can't
And what I
hear
mean by
you.
that is
I
that
can't hear you too
everything that we
well.
consider personal, we would find that as like that. Everything we consider personal, whether it's our sex life or whatever, you'll actually find that there's a varying degree of that within everybody in the general population. And those feelings and secrets and that those are all shared. And so meaning that you're not the only one that's going to be having those secrets. Other people are going to be having that too.
Yeah, I know.
And same with the apprehensions. Like we are literally taught, especially where we live in Vancouver, we're taught to be extremely careful around this person, that person, this person, that person, and so on. Like especially if you're living in the city, that even more so than if you're living out in the country. And so there's those mindsets. But what I wanted to go on about the stream stuff is like, for example, I have a friend in Bishop, California, who went to to a presentation by a known psychic by the name of Sylvia Brown. Well, anyway, when he did that, I actually went to sleep for a couple hours in the afternoon. And I saw myself literally watching him get up on stage asking Sylvia Brown a question on the mic. And I could hear him ask the question. And so I'm seeing this in this astral lucid. And so after he asked the question and everything, I woke up about a half an hour later. I called him up immediately on the phone, and he answers his cell phone and he says, "I can't talk to you right now. I just got out of the I just got out of the auditorium because I just saw a show with Sylvia Brown." and had asked the question. In fact, he videotaped it. And so he literally verified what I saw like 20 minutes to half an hour later, 20 to 30 minutes later, as he was walking out of the auditorium with everybody else that was in there after she had finished her show. And so to me, that was kind of like a verification that, yeah, we can actually. But my understanding is that um, if we can quiet the mind, so we're not being influenced by our thoughts, etc., through, as you say, through meditation. If we can quiet and still the mind, then we will be able to focus more on the telepathy, etc. That much more easier, or astral travel. And so one of the things I kind of discovered was that remote viewing is actually based largely on telepathy. Remote viewing and astral remote viewing. So mental remote viewing and astral remote viewing. And there was a friend of mine back in early 1990s who taught me how to do that, which I can easily share with everybody on the show.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
you have done remote viewing?
Yeah, there's back in the early
Hey,
1990s, I
I,
met a 16-year-old kid who literally had mastered this remote viewing, right? And he told me how to do it.
yeah.
Anyway, he demonstrated this in which I told him to go back to a certain time to on a certain date to where I was, like at my school, and because I had it, and I also had a journal of things I did back then on specific dates. So I got him, so without telling him where I was going, and so he goes into a meditation, and he can literally do it with his eyes open, just like that other guy in Vancouver. His name is Adam McLeod. I don't know if you know him or not. He can do it. He can do this exact thing, same thing too. Anyway, so he goes back and he's finds me at my school, tells me exactly where I'm sitting, exactly everything that he's seen in the school, and he's actually naming the first and last names of my classmates and my friends that were at the school during that time period. And I even got him to name the teacher, and he says, "Yeah, that's his name is Jerry Wellington," like that. And I said, "Okay, who's the guy sitting next to me on my right?" And he says, "Oh, his name is Joe Brand." And I'm like, "Holy wow!" Like, and he was able to name everybody else in the classroom exactly. And I've never had never shared him the names or my um, classmate yearbooks or any of that. But he was, and he was just able to say everything exactly it was. And the reason why I sent him back to that date, because on that morning that I sent him back, I actually had an extraterrestrial encounter right at the school, but I wasn't sure what it was all about. And I actually got him to go back and to see it. And not only did he see it, but the being who made the encounter actually did an astral telepathy with him too, and explained it all to him. So if you can imagine that, right?
JT, I don't
Yeah,
trust anybody who calls themselves a psychic. I'll tell you why I do that.
yeah.
If they call themselves a psychic, and if you're somehow paying money to them, I don't trust them. I don't bother with those people.
Well, you know,
And
I
I
absolutely
know here,
100% agree with you.
I know a lot of people here, JT. These are people I know
Yeah,
personally. They're my friends. I can go and see. I see them all the time, right? I know many people call themselves this or that. Shaman is very common here.
yeah,
People call themselves shaman. I know 10 or 20 people who call themselves shaman, but I sure don't trust them or because often they're some kind of manipulator or they're trying to make money or something like that.
exactly.
And I don't trust one of them. What I do with my own health is I believe that I can heal myself, and that's that's how I do it. I no, I we got too many scammers. I've met too many scammers face to face
Oh, I have
to
too.
trust anybody who calls himself a psychic. I hear the word psychic and I turn around, and walk away, man. I would I wouldn't bother with them. No,
Yeah.
I've done my research with in a very empirical way, so I know a lot of native people here, and I've met the native knowledge keepers, and I sit and listen to them. And this is, I mean, sit knee to knee or sit on a log on the beach and listen to them and their words. And they go into a trance, the knowledge keepers, and they start reciting things in this trance, and they're reciting in a different voice. So I know that because I've seen it with my own eyes. I've been right there. I know these people. I know, yeah, I know they're good people, and they're not. They don't call themselves psychics or shaman or anything like that. That's that. Those are the people I believe. But no, psychics. I hear the word psychic. I think scammer right
Yeah,
away.
exactly. So I used to go to the psychic fairs in Vancouver at I guess they call them the wellness psychic shows. So they used to have these big psychic fairs, right? And so I totally know what you're saying because anyone who's really genuinely psychic is actually quite rare, I discovered. So because I gave these people like back in the 1990s, I gave them the benefit of the doubt, and I found that they were very, very vague. Like they would say stuff that would be very common, like
Yeah,
they would say,
there's a name for that. There's a name
yeah,
for
yeah,
it.
like they could
And
easily
I
say,
see.
oh,
I
yeah,
believe what I see with my own eyes and what other people see
yeah,
or who I know. Like my family has seen me roll five sixes. The game Yahtzee. It's
oh,
a
really? No, that's
nice
interesting.
game. I uh, I announced that I was going to roll a Yahtzee, and then I rolled five sixes, and 20 people saw it right on the table. That's to me a real experience, you know? But
Oh,
some
absolutely.
person comes up
Yeah.
to me and they're talking very vaguely and they want my money and they're trying to get me to join some cult or something like that. I walk away from those people. And anybody who calls themselves a psychic or anything like that, I turn around and walk away. I'm sorry.
Well,
I
that's just
know
it.
I I have a question for you though,
Yeah.
JT. This is something I've been working on. And I'm trying to figure out what percent of humans are telepathic. They're doing telepathy, and they know they're doing telepathy. What percent of humans are like that? I figure it's 5% at this time.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I think we're all telepathic by nature.
Well, no, wait,
You know,
wait, wait,
like
wait.
one of the things I discovered is
No,
that,
no, that's not what I'm talking about.
oh,
I'm talking about people who are telepathic now and who I have received either images or words from, and then I've had, telepathic conversations with them. That's the kind of people I'm talking about. Most people do not believe in telepathy. They reject most people. I
yeah,
mean, I don't know what
yeah,
90, I figure it's around 95% of the people I talk to face, they will tell me, oh, that's BS. They don't believe in telepathy.
yeah,
They will
exactly.
say that 95%, which leaves 5% who are doing it and know they're doing it, unless some people are lying, of course, because I think there's a significant percent of the population who are doing telepathy and other mind tricks and doing it to for their own advantage, like to sell a house and make a whole bunch of money or something like that.
Yeah,
I knew a guy who was a real estate salesman and very, very successful. I knew him very well. He was a family friend, and he was such a scammer at real estate, right? And
well, they
and
usually
he
are.
was
Most
because he
times.
used his psychic
Yeah,
powers or telepathic powers to sell real estate to people, actually to lie to people and to steal from them. So, I mean, you gotta. I'm very careful with these things. I'm very careful, and I don't.
yeah. You're actually not
Oh,
supposed to do that. Like even
for
the,
example, JT, I taught a friend of mine. See, I learned from a native knowledge keeper. I learned
yeah,
how to make myself invisible. I got the instructions. I remembered the instructions. I didn't try it for a few years, but then one day I was in the right situation, so I tried it, and I made
Oh,
myself
God damn
invisible.
it.
Oh, somebody
Pardon
else
me?
is joining us. And who are you? Who's
I made
joining us?
myself invisible
Oh, Joe
to
Monk
the
is on.
to a friend of mine,
We got Joe Monk.
and it freaked him out so bad that he didn't talk to me for years because he's a Christian type person.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah, really.
so it scared the hell out of him. Now, okay, so then what I did was I taught my friend Penny, I taught her how to make herself invisible, and
Wow.
then she did it in front of my own eyes. That's what I believe. Okay, that's how I decide that I believe something. I see it right in front of my own eyes, and nobody's trying to scam me or rip me off in any way. I do empirical methodology. It's called. I've given lectures on methodology
Yeah.
as an engineer. As an engineer, I give lectures sometimes. Now, okay, yeah, I saw it with my own eyes. My friend Penny made herself invisible in front of my eyes, and then we both laughed about it because it's funny as hell to me anyway. We laughed about it. She's that kind of person. She laughs, I laugh. Same with my sister-in-law. She's another intuitive person. I like the word intuitive. My sister-in-law is an intuitive person, and she and I have done experiments, and we demonstrated to my brother that I was in telepathic communication with my brother's wife, which forms a triangle. You see that? So we did this. We did this to my brother 3 times. We demonstrated to my brother that we were in telepathic communication, and that freaked my brother out so bad. It freaked him right out. And
Wow.
that's why the whole family blew up, because there became this triangle between my brother and my brother's wife and I. There's 3 people, and it blew the whole family all to heck. It's all gone now. No, I don't have any family anymore because of that. But you see how things happen. I mean, we proved to my brother. We proved to you know face to face, and there was no money exchanged whatsoever.
Wow.
And it blew his mind. It
Yeah.
freaked him out so bad he could hardly drive the car. He was driving the car when this event occurred, and that was the third time that Jill and I demonstrated to my brother that we were telepathic, and my brother freaked the freak out. Okay, totally. And I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. You know, so I mean, that's how I think. I think empirically, and I need. I'm very fussy about evidence and data sets and all that. I gotta have data. I gotta see it with my own eyes.
Oh
Got
yeah, I
got to
absolutely
experience
understand
it.
you.
Now,
I don't just
Absolutely.
to, be-
believe what people say. I'm sorry. I don't
Yeah.
even
now
believe
to
video
be fair, Jim,
anymore.
I would love to see that disappearing act. Now, can we get that on film?
Well, as a matter of fact, did you learn that from Steve Richards' book of how to do invisibility?
A native knowledge keeper
Oh, he
told
taught you
me,
how to do that.
gave me directly. This was not a video or anything like that. It was a native knowledge keeper explained it, and the native knowledge keeper was in a trance at the time. They jumped into a trance, recited step 1, step 2, step 3 in a different voice, and then they jumped out of the trance and they were normal again. And
Wow.
that's how knowledge keepers operate. I've met lots of them, real native indigenous knowledge keepers. I've met Australian Aboriginal knowledge keeper, and many around where I live here. uh,
Wow.
I'm with the native people here.
Yeah, because
I'm
you
not.
live around Seashell, if I understand correctly,
Oh,
like in that area.
Seashell, yeah, the
Yeah.
Shishal tribe. Yeah, I'm very much connected to them. I'm not native myself, but I'm very much connected to the tribe and trusted by many of them, and I trust them. And I
Well,
go hunting,
as
fishing,
yeah,
and berry picking with native people, and I get told stories and real stories,
yeah,
from
exactly.
people who met.
As a matter of fact, you might know a couple of friends of mine who live in Seashell. Well, her name was Violette. You might know her.
Who's that?
She lives in your area. Her name is Violette.
Villette?
Yeah, do you know her, Violette?
Never, not heard of
I
her.
actually went to university with her, right?
Uh,
But
my, my
when you
best
mentioned
friend here.
invisibility, there was this guy by the name of Steve Richards who published a book on how to do it. And he actually, if I understand his story correctly, he learned it from the Aboriginals of Australia because he's from Australia. And as a result of that, the Aboriginals, turns out, learned it from the Yahweh, meaning the Sasquatches, from Australia. And so it's like the Sasquatches passed it on to the Aboriginals, and then the Aboriginals passed it on to him. And when you go invisible, you won't really see it happening to yourself, because as you probably already know if you've already done it, oops, as you've already done it, presumably, what you're actually doing is you're influencing your morphogenetic field, which actually exists around you. And since you're within the morphogenetic field, you probably won't see yourself actually go invisible, but the other people around you will. And you can also use that very similar morphogenetic field technique to also levitate, and the Sasquatches can do that too. So I'm assuming you've tried this, right?
Levitation?
Yeah, levitation and also the invisibility.
I can't I can't I can't testify to that. I have felt levitation on my own part, but I don't claim to have levitated. No, but
Okay, he wrote a book
I
on
have
how to do
felt
it
it.
too. We'll have to meet in person and compare notes, right?
Pardon me?
We'll have to meet in person, like maybe in Vancouver or something one day, and we'll compare
Oh,
notes.
yeah, I never go to Vancouver.
Oh, you never? Okay, I'll have to come up to your area
Can't
then.
stand the place.
But
I didn't know you lived so close to me.
yeah,
You
actually, I live out in Langley.
Oh, Langley.
Yeah, so I live
Oh, I
relatively
didn't
really
know that.
close. So it wouldn't take me very long to actually get out there.
Okay.
I also
So
have another really nice friend that lives in Powell River too, which is further up the coast from
I didn't
Seychelles.
catch the name.
What's that?
Did you say a name?
Oh, yeah, I have a like a girlfriend, well, friend that lives up in Powell River. But Violette is the one who lives in your area, and she's totally into Sasquatches and all of that too, right?
Yeah. Well, if
And
I could,
actually, her
I
and her
would
husband.
get a link to her or something like that.
Yeah, well, I'll see if I can get you connected with her on Facebook because I'm hoping to make a trip out there this summer,
Yeah.
like in the next few weeks or so, right?
Yeah.
Out to Seychelles, and then maybe we can all go to Port Melon together,
Oh, yeah. Well,
and
no,
then we can
I'm
check this
kind
out.
of disabled now, you know.
What's that?
I'm disabled. I'm crippled.
Oh, so you
So
but you okay?
I'm
So you won't be able
76.
to really go anywhere anymore.
Pardon me?
You won't be able to travel out there anymore.
No, I'm not going through those portals. Last time I went through a portal, I think was 2012, and I was getting more and more disabled, and I don't want to go through the portals anymore. I can't.
When you
I'm
say disabled, you mean like you're in a wheelchair,
like what?
like wheelchair disabled?
I need a cane or a walker,
Yeah.
and I wear braces on my legs. I can
Oh,
walk a little way without a cane or a walker, but it's pretty difficult. So I'm trying to get back into better shape. I'm always working on it. I do yoga and everything. But anyways, yeah, I can't go through any more portals. I'm not
oh,
going through 'em. No way. I chickened out. I mean, because the last two times I went through the portals, both times I had serious mechanical problems with my vehicles.
well, that's understandable. That's to be expected, though, right?
Well, these were very strange problems. But anyways, I that kind of scared me away from it. That was 2012 was the last time.
Yeah.
And I went way up in the mountains in my 4x4. And next morning I got up and I had no brakes at all and I had to come down way downhill in the 4x4, right?
Well,
Bottom and the 4x4 wasn't working right. I had zero brakes, nothing, no emergency brake, nothing. So that kind of I thought, well, that's my last time through a portal because the time before that I also had a mechanical problem when I was up on the other side of the portal camping for a while and I didn't know if I'd get home. The truck started running weird. But anyways, no, it's for somebody. It's for younger people now to go through those portals. But this is my main discovery. This has great value.
yeah.
th- These portals, it has tremendous value. It's repeatable. Yeah, which means it's scientific, totally repeatable, and I think it has great implications on our current knowledge of theoretical physics, even to the point of a, a new a new general relativity. It's that big, or could be, and but I can't get anybody to. I'm very much like Galileo. When Galileo had looked through his telescope and seen the evidence that he saw, but no,
Well,
he had to
yeah,
convince other people,
yeah,
hey, look through
exactly.
my telescope. Look, see what you see through the telescope. I'm just like Galileo in that way. I've been studying the biography of Galileo just recently, and I'm very much like him because I'm telling people, hey, all you got to do is look through the telescope. It's right there. Look, look, what do you see? Draw a picture of what you see, right? And I'm telling people, go through the portals. There they are. This is how you do it. Although I have to explain very carefully how to go through the portals because they could get lost and never return. If they did, some people go through, I think, fall through portals and can't get back, and they're
Yes.
dead to this universe. They're alive in some other universe, but that's the nature of portals, right?
Well, apparently, if you're right next to the portal, if you are focused enough, you can determine your point of destination, as you probably already know, right?
No, no, I wouldn't say that's true.
You
Um,
wouldn't necessarily. That's kind of how the Sasquatches would do it, right?
Oh, I
Yeah.
don't know about that. I know what I've seen with my own eyes. I don't know.
But you mentioned that when you went into the portal before, you actually reeled yourself back into our dimensional plane just by focusing on being back here.
Well, I'll tell you what I know is
Yeah.
that it's very much a consciousness thing. And this is what our current science does not understand. They don't get it. But yeah, going through a portal involves consciousness, and you need to have control over your own consciousness in order to go through a portal. Like, I met some young guys here who've been
Yeah.
through. They have been through the portals. There's two young guys. They've been through them, and the one young fella told me his story, and he had never heard of the word portal. He's never heard of Skinwalker Ranch. He's 20 years old. He's a mountain bike rider. He knows nothing about the paranormal or anything, but he went through the portal with his friend, and he described it to me, and I said, you went through a portal. He doesn't even know what the word means, right? But sometimes it's better to be naive in that way. But when I first went through a portal in 1983, I saw it with my eyes. It was a big round hole, and I drove right into it. And I went through it, man, and I found
Well,
a different universe over there with different road systems and all this stuff. So I call these. What I have determined by the evidence is that there are approximately seven space times, which are similar but not all the same. And some are better and some are worse. Like, I had my favorite space time that I like to go through the portal and stay in this really great place, wonderful place. Um, but I couldn't always find that. It wasn't, I didn't have control of where the portal went to. I did have control of going through the portal. I could do that at will, but I cannot determine where I wind up. And one time I wound up in a bad universe, I could call it, or other space time, and it was unpleasant as hell and scared the hell out of me. And I got the heck out of there as fast as I could. And I'll just give this advice at this time in case anybody finds himself on the other side of a portal. The way you get back is you think in your mind, I want to go home.
exactly. That's what I was referring to.
I want to go home. And
Yeah.
then you turn in the direction where you think home is,
Yeah.
and you go in that direction. In my case, I've always driven through portals, but this also works if you're walking through portals or if you're alone or with other people. Because Chris Bledsoe describes him his going through a portal with a bunch of friends of his, and they walked right through a portal, and then they got back by thinking, we want to go home now. We want to go home. And that's the consciousness. That's the intent that gets you out. Okay? So people should know that, because that's why I say it's dangerous. If you're not prepared mentally, um, you may or may not find your way back out of the portal, but some people do not find their way back out, and they're stuck and probably dead
Oh,
on the other side. But
yeah.
yeah, so this is the warning I give, and I want to explain this to anybody who thinks they want to try my portals. Okay, but I gotta give you a lecture about intent and consciousness and all this kind of stuff, and how to get back again, right? Because I think in my case that some entities are manipulating me, because I've met these entities. They're aliens. I call them ET aliens. And I think they are manipulating me to teach me these things. And that's a longer story, but they've done a lot of this trying to teach me. And so anyways, I think further investigation of along these lines will lead to a whole new theoretical physics. It would redo, how Einstein reshaped, remade theoretical physics with his general relativity. You know about that, I'm sure. Well, it's that kind of a leap forward in human theoretical physics and human science and all that stuff. So anyway,
Oh,
that's
definitely.
that's how I kind of think about it. I'm like
Well,
Galileo. I'm saying,
and
look
yeah,
at the telescope, man.
yeah,
Go ahead. You just do
yeah.
it.
And you probably know that portal entrances are generally invisible.
I'm
Was
sorry,
that the case with your
portal
portals
what?
as well?
Portal frequencies?
Well, portal entrances are generally invisible. You
Inferences?
don't really see it until after you enter it, right?
I
With most portals, at least, right?
okay, I don't understand the language you're using
Oh,
there.
so when you go out, a lot of people when they go through a portal or they get lost in a portal, it's because they don't see that the portal's actually there.
Yeah, you might not see it.
Yeah, all of a sudden they just find themselves in a completely different place. I actually, you're not the first person I've talked to who have been through portals. I actually had a friend up in Bella Coola, British Columbia. Actually, I still know him. He's in California now. But he had his Sasquatch friend actually led him and his sister and two of her kids into a portal. And when this happened, they were in a completely different place. And he was confident about it because his Sasquatch friend was with him, uh, even though invisible. But I guess she and her kids kind of really started freaking out about it, and so he tried to calm her and her kids down for the for like I think it was 10 or 15 minutes there, and then he basically said, "Well, if you're all that scared, then we'll just take you back," and he did. But if I remember him correctly, he did say that way off in the distance, in the woods where they were, they could actually hear what they figure was the sound of a dinosaur because his Sasquatch contact supposedly took him back. What was it? One um, thousands of years ago, maybe even millions of years ago, just briefly, because that's where he wanted to go. And but when this happened, and all he did was that he had a pendulum, and the his Sasquatch friend just tugged on the pendulum, invisible, and guided him into the portal. So it wasn't really any difficult. And then he knew where he came out of on the other side, so it wasn't any difficult going back in, providing that the portal didn't close in behind them. But so that was one account. The other account is that I actually have a couple books on people who have actually built, I kid you not, built their own portal. And one was found in this book called Crystal Power by Michael G. Smith. And he actually explained, and it tells you how to build a really simple design and all that. And you have to build it over a vortex point, or you can even build your own vortex point as well. And so he actually mentions how you, if you can focus, you can actually focus on your point of destination. And people who have supposedly built this thing have actually seen cities in the future, or futuristic cities from like 500 or something years from now. Some people will go back into the past. Some people try and get back into Atlantis, which I find very fascinating, interesting too, and so on. And my original mentor, he was taken into a portal by his Sasquatch friends, actually quite frequently. And when he went into that world, he said he saw like a Disney-like castle. Went into the castle, and he met this black guy there. And the black guy actually said he was from his dimension too, meaning our dimension. But that guy didn't want to go back because he said there's nothing for him to go back to, because unfortunately his family, immediate family, brothers and that, parents, were all caught up on drugs and meth and stuff like that. And he originally came in from the Bronx, and he eventually found his way there when he was camping in upstate New York. Met up with a Sasquatch, and the Sasquatch took him through the portal and took him to the castle. Well, interestingly enough, with this guy, my original mentor from back then, his name's Stan Johnson. Unfortunately, he's no longer alive because he's. But they took him to the same castle from his portal, which was in around just south of Eugene, Oregon, which is literally on the other side of the country. But yet they were able to end up in the same place. And while he was there, he saw that these extraterrestrial people were flying on these flying platforms and so forth. And so he met some of the ET people and that there, and they actually looked after this guy pretty good in this Disney castle. So what do you think of that?
Uh, I don't include drug experiences
Oh, I'm
in
saying that
my
black guy wasn't into drugs. It was
I
his
I
family
don't
that
believe
was.
people who take drugs. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I
yeah, I'm
delete
saying.
all drug experiences. I
Yeah, the black guy
experienced.
wasn't into drugs, and my mentor guy, he wasn't into drugs either. But what it was is that, so the black guy, I don't know what his name was. He actually, since he was clean, maybe he didn't want to have anything to do with it. He didn't. In fact, he wasn't. I don't know if that guy ever did drugs or not. I never asked Stan, or Stan never asked him. But
So here's what we coming back around to, because I'm listening intently as well. So is
yeah,
everyone in the chat. They are very interested in your conversation back and forth. Um, me, I'm a get to the answers kind of guy.
yeah, for sure.
So I'm a guy that, I mean, I'm listening to what you both are saying here, and I would want to know, because it's interesting, if we could do this invisibility thing. Let's start there. If we could, is there a way that that can be filmed? Can we film that? Is
Well,
that a, is
I
there?
could.
Not at all. No, no. See, and uh, uh, okay.
Yeah,
Native people and native knowledge keepers have told me that this is secret knowledge and I shouldn't tell anybody.
yeah. You're actually not
So I
supposed to tell
don't
that
give the
information.
instructions, step one, step two, step three. I don't give those instructions out because, I've been sworn to secrecy. Now, also, I did tell my friend Penny because she's in on it. She's a kind of a she's a very intuitive person herself. I did tell her she's the only person I've actually given the instructions to because I knew she would try it, and she did. And she did it in front of my eyes. But I don't want to say much more about that because it's a power that can be used to rob a bank or murder
Exactly.
somebody or all manner of bad things. And what I get from the knowledge keepers, this is the indigenous knowledge in general around the world, is all the teaching comes with morals. Okay, if there is a power, you must be a moral person. Like if I had the power, if I had a gun, a pistol on my hip or something like that, I would have power, but I wouldn't use it to shoot somebody, right? So any power should not be used for bad purposes. Okay, so this invisibility thing, I'll tell you a little hint.
But
It works
going
by
going a little further though, going a little further because you made a unique statement there when you said that it's something that you were entrusted with by the indigenous, and so then is it therefore something that we should tell people about? And that's the dilemma that I have in this in our community is that we can have a situation where we can we've experienced this thing, we can talk about this thing, but then when it comes to validating it to for everyone else, then it's something that all of a sudden we can't do. And that is the argument that we get from people outside of our community who say, you can't reproduce it. We just get stories about it. So we can sit and talk about it, which is cool to do because it adds a whole nother level to it. But then what happens when it's time to, pay the piper or try, to bring this to the forefront?
Yeah,
If it's something we can never bring to the forefront and never validate, then what do we do with that information, and why would we tell other people the information or talk about it if there's no way to validate it? Because then what people will walk away and say. They'll say, "Oh, well, you can't do it then because you can't validate it." That's what they'll walk away and say, even though different. But when we talk about trying to help move the conversation down in a direction that gets us all the answers that we're looking for, then it's like this is one of those things that you're admitting that can't won't be answered because you can't. There's no way to show it to anyone. How do
well,
you
actually, there
well,
is.
reconcile that?
it works by mind to
Yeah,
mind hypnosis.
that's
That
right.
the kind of invisibility I have done works by mind to mind hypnosis, which means that it's difficult for me to do it to one person, let alone a whole group of people. But you
Yeah,
certainly cannot record it on a camera because it's not like that. It's mind to mind communication. It's a trick, and I made the statement that I am a trickster. I have the abilities of the trickster, and it is this. But to teach other people, they have to see it for themselves. Now, that's why I say I want to try to teach telepathy to other people, because once you experience telepathy, you know how to do it. Then you will know. You really know
exactly.
when you can
Exactly.
establish telepathic communication with
Yeah,
another person. Um, then you know it's real. But you have to start with the simple stuff, right? Like telepathy is a simpler thing. And the way I teach telepathy is I say, okay, first you try it with a wild animal, even a squirrel, a chipmunk, a duck. Birds are quite easy. Deer are very easy. A bear, I've had communication with bears. But you start with the easy stuff to learn. And once you do it yourself, then you say, oh, I get it. Yeah, telepathy is real. I can, what you do at the beginning of the way I teach telepathy is first you look at a deer, a wild deer, you communicate you are beautiful to the deer. You 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 say this in your mind. You say to the deer, you are beautiful. This gets the deer's attention, and it turns and looks at you, and it doesn't want to run away. It might even come right up to you. I've had deer run up to me even by thinking loudly in my mind, you are beautiful. And I establish in my mind an image of the deer I'm looking at, and I make it beautiful, and I project that at the deer, and then it runs right up to me. And
exactly.
that's
Exactly.
step one. Trying to do that is step one. And like I say, it's easiest with wild animals. Don't do it with your pet animals. You're already tied up mentally with your pets, and you won't see the response. But if you do it with a wild animal, then you know. So I've had there's a the red-winged blackbird will fly right up to you and sit on a branch and dance back and forth and all this. When you tell the red-winged blackbird you are beautiful, or I like the red on your wing or something like that. I just talked to a raccoon recently. It came to my back door begging for food, and I had to go out and tell the raccoon, first I said, your tail is beautiful. And it spun around and looked at me like the raccoon was asking me, how could you speak raccoon? And I said, to the raccoon, I said, your tail is beautiful. You are beautiful. I like you very much. I love you, dear. I love you. I love you, raccoon. But I don't have any food for you. I told it. I said, I don't have any food for you. And then it looked disgruntled, and it turned and waddled away. And it turns out my neighbor has been feeding this raccoon. And that's why it came to my door asking for food. And I had to tell it, you're very pretty, but I can't give you any food. You know, and I had this conversation with a wild raccoon in the middle of the night, and this is how you learn that it's working, is you get feedback from your efforts, and you see, oh, that worked, eh? Or uh, ducks will walk right up to you and parade back and forth in front of you. These are wild geese will do this. If you look at them and you think, you are pretty, you're so pretty, oh, and you radiate a good feeling towards the animal. I say I project love at the animal. It's a projection of great feeling towards the animal, and they feel it, and they all of a sudden think, oh, you're okay. Like I did this with a bear one time that was threatening me.
Well,
This was a mother bear with a cub, and she was 15 feet away from me, and I was on my knees behind my camera, and this bear was threatening me, and I beamed love at it. I had to save my own life. I beamed love at this mother bear, and I said, "You're very beautiful, and we love you, and we love your baby." And it just stopped in its tracks. It just kind of looked at me and then turned and walked away and didn't eat me.
well,
So that was for my own uh, self self survival. Now here I am telling stories again, and I'm saying, people, you got to experience this in order to begin. In any learning, you have to begin at the beginning. And step one is looking at a red-winged blackbird and saying, "You are beautiful," and it'll suddenly stop what it's doing, fly right up to you, fly right over, and promenade back and forth in front of you, and show you its beauty and all this stuff. And then you do that, and then you do other things. You try other animals, and uh, chipmunks, and then I've tried many wild animals. I've learned a lot. I've learned, for example, that the ravens won't talk to me. The ravens here have a local culture. They hate human beings. They won't talk to me. They throw things at me and squawk at me, and they don't like
uh,
me. And so, but other animals, each animal's different. I've had conversations with many different species of local wild animals, and some of them like humans, and some of them dislike humans. So
yeah, really.
you have to learn that by experience. And like I've done this over 100 times. It's a repeatable experiment. I've repeated it over 100 times with wild animals, and so that's that's what I can offer of value, is to teach people how to experience these things themselves. And I've been doing this for a long time, and I even had recently I had a successful CE5, and I wasn't believing CE5. So I thought, okay, I'll do what they say. I'll give it a real good try. So I meditated on my alien friend. I don't know where he is, but
Well, you have a benefactor.
I meditated on him for about a week. I spent like a whole week meditating really hard on this alien friend that I have.
Yeah,
And in the middle of the night, I often go outside in the middle of the night, and I went out, and there was one very bright flash of light. It was not an orb, because he knows I don't believe in orbs. Okay, and it was not an orb. It was a extremely bright flash of light right down at me. It lit up the trees around me, and so I looked right at the point where the light flashed, and it flashed again. Again, it lit up the tops of the trees around me, but it actually hurt my right eye. It was so bright. So I call that a successful CE5 experiment. And I asked, when I was meditating on my alien friend, I was asking him a question. I was telling him, I was saying, is my work good? Because I work for this guy, this alien fella, who I've met 6 times, and I feel that I work for him. I think I work for him, and I asked him, "Am I doing my job well?" That was the big question I had for my alien friend. Am I doing the work you want me to do? And he gave me a sign, a CE5, and I think, okay, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, because I just do what I feel like doing. Right. My job is I'm an environmental engineer, and I also am a whistleblower against bad science like nuclear power and nuclear weapons and all that. Just the obvious stuff. And that's my work. And my alien friend knows all this. He knows my mind very well. He's uh, very superior intelligence. So anyway, that's how I do my research. Is I've got to see it with my own eyes, and I did. I did successful CE5. So that's how I test things, though, right? So I want to test uh, things that people are saying. Greer, Greer, Dr. Greer. I wasn't believing everything he says, and I thought, well, I can test this CE5 thing. So I gave it a real good test, and it worked. So I still don't believe everything that Dr. Greer says, but at least I back
But that's
back
the
up.
perfect example, Jim, that you give there. So you state you're a person that needs to see evidence, and I agree with you on that. It's great if we can have evidence to back up a story. And then you stated how you were able to take something that Stephen Greer said or described, and you were able to try it on your own. But that was because he divulged the information to do so, or presented a situation where you were able to understand how to do it, then do it yourself. So that's what I'm saying here is like if you have a situation where there's this ability that you've discovered or you've harnessed or you've observed, how do you allow that to translate to someone else so they could do as you did with Dr. Greer and try these things on their own
Mhm.
and attempt to validate the stuff for themselves?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm telling people, Rob. I'm telling people you got to go do it yourself and do your own experiments and whatnot. And then when you see it with your own eyes, you learn something new, right? So
Absolutely, eh?
that's what I'm doing. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where I should start. I feel that's where I should begin. Teaching people. Um,
Hmm.
so what more can I do? I can only do
Yeah,
what
no, what
I do.
it's just so like if someone walks away from the show tonight, the goal would be that you have shown someone an ability like what we're doing all this talking about, showing someone how to do this so they walk away not saying, oh yeah, Jim talked about a cool thing he was able to do, but then how then they can now take that ability into their own lives and then execute it themselves. I don't think the groundwork has been laid. You've talked because you said the natives, and you wouldn't be able to really divulge, which I've heard that as well. There's certain things they won't tell anyone because they don't want to divulge. So I know that's the thing. But what do you when you present yourself and you present your story? where where within the story do you give the tools for that person out there listening to be able to pick this up on their own?
Hmm. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. When I tell people to try those experiments with wild animals, and give it a good 10 tries anyway. And if you're doing it right, you'll know for sure, because what the change in behavior of the wild animal. Like deer normally run away from you, right? They see a human
Hmm.
and they take off across the forest, right? And elk too. Elk will just run away from you. I've had a whole herd of elk run away from me, and then another time one elk appeared, and I immediately thought to the elk, "You are beautiful. You are so beautiful. Look how pretty you are." And it stopped. It didn't run away. It turned and paraded back and forth in front of me and smiled and nibbled at some bushes and stuff. Well, that's not normal behavior for those elk in that area, because people shoot them dead. So they don't like people, right? They run away from people. But because I I said to this elk, I just sent really warm feelings to the elk, and I said, "You are beautiful," and it stopped and looked at me and didn't run away. Uh, Whereas normally wild elk will run away from you because people hunt them in that location where I was at. So this is how you do the experiment yourself, and then once you have some successes, then you can develop that ability into many other things, as I have done as well. You see, and yeah, that's the only way I can teach it. I mean, you can't get a video of of uh, of your thoughts. I'm sorry, or animals' thoughts, but you can observe their behavior, and if you, I'm with the talking to wild animals, I'm a good 80% successful, something like that. It depends on the situation. Oh, I just had another one the other day. I walked down to the creek in my backyard, and there were these two water birds, ducks kind of thing, and they popped up out of the creek from underneath a log, and they saw me, and they were a pair, a couple, and they looked up at me and saw me, and they took off out of fear. They just went ripping up there as fast as they could go, and the female lagged behind the male, and I was looking at the female and in the male and saying, "You are so beautiful." And she turned around. She stopped running away from me. She turned around, smiled at me, and just stopped. Whereas the male was ripping off down the creek as fast as he could go. He thought I was going to kill him or something. But the female of the two. So I'm better than 50-50 a success rate in this, way over 50-50
Mhm.
success rate in this, and you can see by the change in behavior of the animal. It's obvious as heck. When a deer runs towards me rather than running away from me, I know, okay, I'm communicating with this deer. And in the deer, I find also that the young deer and the young elk are more easily influenced and made friends with, whereas the adults will run away sometimes. But anyway, like I say, I'm more than 50% success rate with this, and it's a drastic change in their behavior. It's very drastic. So that's where I start teaching. I think that's where people can begin to learn and see with their own eyes and get
Okay.
results, and then go on and learn more. You see, so I've gone on with telepathy. I've gone from talking to wild animals. I've communicated with pet animals also, and then to humans. I've done that with humans as well, but I've explained some of the problems there. Problems can arise, and I mean, I could tell you of some of my telepathic communications with humans, which have been uh, kind of
Well,
distasteful.
l-
Distasteful.
let's hold that one because we're hitting the 3 hour mark right now for the show tonight, and we're gonna go ahead and just get ready to shut this one down. So we'll do another one this weekend, maybe tomorrow night. So maybe we'll
Okay,
get
let's
back together
continue
tomorrow
tomorrow
night.
night. This is
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
quite fun.
Let's do that. We'll get together tomorrow night. I'll work out the kinks and bugs. As far as I don't know why Joe Monk couldn't stay on stage. We'll figure all that stuff out and reconvene back here right after Dave's show tomorrow night. So kind of just be ready and have a great conversation. And yeah, I mean, conversations to move the needle. That's my thing. And as
Exactly.
long as we can have these conversations and at the end of them have at least got people thinking or progressed the conversation forward. That's the goal here, man. So I appreciate you both for being
Yep.
brave enough to come up on stage and share with everyone tonight. You guys are both awesome. Jay Truth Seeker on the far right. You
Fantastic.
I appreciate you both
Fantastic
because
job.
once again, this show is for you guys. This is a show for you to do exactly what you did, which is come up here, converse amongst each other, and talk about the phenomena. So excellent work. Let's do this again tomorrow.
Good on you, Rob.
Excellent. All right.
All
Well,
right. I
I
will.
look forward
Night.
to
Good night for now. Where's
yeah.
the thing I click on to
I'll get you out of here. And
Okay.
then you have anything you want to say to the audience before you go, J True Seeker?
Yeah, I look forward to continuing this tomorrow. Um,
What? Same time, same
yeah,
place.
same time, same channel, same place,
There
right?
you go.
Yeah,
There you go. J True Seeker, thanks for being awesome. I'm gonna
yeah,
drop you
likewise.
off, talk to the audience, and get us out of here.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Okay, we'll see you then.
All right, guys, fantastic show. This is once again, this is what it's all about, is to be able to have you guys come on stage. This is your show. I just host the show. I'm just here. I'm just kind of hanging out. This is your show. You know, if no one hops on stage as earlier, then I will talk about some subjects here until we have people brave enough, like Jim and Jay True Seeker, to jump on stage and continue in conversation. It was an awesome back and forth between the two. Interesting to hear. You know, you don't often get to sit in on many conversations that are kind of off the record, right? That or deal with the phenomena on a level as deep as they went tonight. But as I said, at the end of it, you know, I think it's our duty to make sure that we connect the dots with these conversations too. Like, where do these conversations, you know, why are these conversations important to have? Why is it important that we know this information? Why is this important? How does this tie into where we're going? How can we utilize this as human beings and kind of make sure that, you know, we're continuing to stay on the right path, right? As long as we can end a show and feel like we move somewhere knowledge wise, then I think we've done a good job, right? And once again, this show is for you guys. You know, there's nothing ever scripted for this show. You just come in, you call in, you talk about how you feel about the phenomena, your experiences, and you may get a couple of questions as I gave tonight. But for the most part, I invite anyone else out there that would like to come up on stage and just talk about it. Why not? What does it hurt to come on stage and just simply have the conversation as we do all the time? So we're going to go ahead and get ready to get up out of here. If we can, if I can get to go home. We got to go home the right way. It's just what we do. Okay, yeah, there we go. The social dig music is how we get up out of here. Definitely appreciate everybody for coming on in and hanging out on a late night calling show. We will do this again. We'll do it tomorrow. I'll make sure I set it all up. We'll have the show. Make sure you're here tomorrow night, right after Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. We'll be back here hearing what you have to talk about. Then we'll also be back here on Friday as we go ahead and get ready to jump into this show right here. UFOs, art imitating life. Why is there a pattern in movies that seems to get it right? We'll be talking about that. Jordan Peele, a lot of people wrote him off for the way he approached the UFO subject and thought it was so bananas. Even people who have experienced extraterrestrial encounters, and they still also looked at it in that fashion. And I kind of want to now connect some dots on that, since we have this new video released by Jeremy Corbell, and see what this means, see what this all means. It'll be fun. Make sure you're here. If you're out there, you're a lurker, you weren't in the chat, please consider a subscribe, notification bell to know when we go live again, and come back for a great conversation as always right here on the Social Dig. Definitely want to thank our super chatters here for the night, being awesome as ever. We had Deb from SAC 2 times, appreciating her for her support Space Out Radio of the Social Dig and Space Out Radio as well. You're over there, both channels. And Lavera Lucchini as well. Thank you so much for your support of the show tonight. We couldn't do it without you guys. As long as whenever you want to do it, you let me know. I'm here. We'll set it up. We'll make it happen. Outside of that, I definitely want to make sure that we go ahead and take a look here. Memberships are available. This helps the show. This makes it where we can pay these subscription fees and all the things that need to be done to put on a show. And we always commit to raising the bar here. It's something we do. Things get better here all the time, production wise, and we're going to make sure that we put on shows that you like. So with that being said, I wouldn't mind if you became a member. Shout out to the members up there that are currently members. T-Bone, The Beekeeper, D. Nunley, Maggie M10, Flat 6, Miss Catherine Jones, Leanne Bridges, Polly Rodderman. As much as she's dealing with in Israel, Polly Rodderman is a member, and we appreciate her for that. Lil Count 51, Frankie B, Fast Timmy. I appreciate everybody that came on out here tonight as well to the Social Dig late night calling show. Remember, put this number in your phone, 856-843-3444. That's 856-THE-DIGG if you're outside the United States. 001 first, then 856-843-3444 or 001-856-856-THE-DIGG. Outside of that, fantastic show. I will see you guys back here tomorrow. Let's get it in. Have a great rest of your night, guys, and take care. Welcome to the Social Shop, courtesy of the Social Dig. I am Mr. Rob G, and we are bringing you exclusive gear, and tonight's no different. We have Humanity t-shirts, the positive progression of humanity. Yes, you can go out into the world and proudly show everyone what humanity means to you. $32.99. And remember, if you're a social soldier, you get an additional 20% off the price. That's right. Being a social soldier gets you an additional 20% off. And keep in mind, depending where you are in the world, shipping fees and taxes will be applied. Bringing you exclusive gear right here at the Social Shop on the Social Dig.